Little.
Little change.
I like that we started off with that.
I know, right? I'm so little.
I'm so
All
little.
right. I think we are live. Always fun with the technical things. Well, good morning. It is Scott McDermott here, and I'm super stoked to co-host bLU Talks Amplify Your Message with my awesome friend Laura Lake. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, I don't feel so little anymore.
Yeah, I can play that.
You can play that.
I can change. I have all kinds of buttons. I can do all kinds of tricks.
Oh, do you? Make me little again.
Okay, I would do this.
There we go.
There we
This is what we meant by I'm so little.
Yes. So we're waiting for our guest to arrive. So we were just doing a couple things to make sure that our guest is aware of all the links and all that good stuff. But yeah, we're live on 3 platforms, which is fun: Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube all at once. Exciting. So it's always a bit stressful. It's like, is this working? Is it on? It's on. It's on.
Okay, that reminds me of the Lego movie when Unikitty goes into the conference room and she's like, business, 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 numbers. Is this working? And then somebody says yes, and she goes, yay! And then they just continue on. This is what it feels like right now. It's like all the tech issues, all the link issues, all the transition issues. But we're figuring it out as we go. But that sounds like business, doesn't it?
As always, I like that. Business, 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 numbers, numbers, numbers. That's awesome. Remember Flintstones way back in the day?
Yeah.
Fred Flintstone ends up being the CEO of some company for a little bit. Yes. And he's like, I don't know what to do. And he says, you just got to remember 3 sentences. Whose baby is that? I'll buy that for $1. And what's your angle? You should just say those things and through the whole meeting. And he gets through the whole meeting by just saying, what's your angle? Whose baby is that? I'll buy that for $1 or whatever. And he makes it work. It's pretty funny.
I named one of my pets after the dinosaur that they had.
Which one?
It was Dino.
Dino.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I had a dog. My brother named him, actually.
Oh, fun.
And he was like the sweetest dog ever. Has nothing to do with business, but that's okay.
Yeah. I'm just clicking on the going live soon button on Facebook here.
And I will double check that she got that link.
And it is. So that's exciting.
It's sent. It was read, so she should be here soon.
Okay, cool. That'd be awesome. Yeah, that's always the fun part too, right? Is you have a guest coming and you're like, okay, they're not here yet. Okay, good. Would we miscommunicate? Finding all the details of what's going on. So
yeah,
it's very exciting to be part of this program for Corey Poirier, bLU Talks. Really, really great stuff. Business, life, and the universe, bLU Talks. And yeah, set to amplify the message. So hopefully you have a bunch of guests. Well, we've got a bunch of guests. Yeah, exactly. We've got a bunch of guests this week where we're going to interview and have them talk about how they are making the world a better place. So I'm pretty stoked about that. It's really fun to be part of this.
It is. I like the fact that there are multiple shows. Like this is the Facebook Live, YouTube Live, LinkedIn Live, that kind of stuff. Then there's another show like this. Then we have the live presentations, which I'm so excited because I get to go to Harvard next month.
I know.
Like, one of my dreams come true. I'm like, wait. Small town country girl.
Yeah.
Nerd, like all of that.
Yeah.
Gets to speak at an event at Harvard. To me, it's mind-blowing. It doesn't feel real. And I know that you spoke at one of the events. Which event was that?
I did the one in it was supposed to be at U of A, but then there was a kerfuffle with the location. So it was in Edmonton, but it ended up being at a nice hotel, which was fine, but it was fantastic.
Nice. And then those particular events are slightly different than these events because those events are like 10x style talks.
Correct.
These events, we get to do interviews with people just like you and me and everyone listening, where we get to understand, as the show says, amplify your message. We want to know, like, what do you do? What's your message? Why do you do what you do? But how do you share that message with people? How do you get people to connect, to engage, to buy from you, to champion your cause alongside you?
Yeah, and it's fun. And I see Robin's in the background now, so we'll let her in a second. But what I love about these amplifier messages personally too is I get to meet a crazy bunch of amazing people that I didn't know they existed. I didn't know that service was possible, and it's something I need. So I'm going to add Robin, and I can't wait to hear what she's all about.
Definitely. Hey, Robin.
Hey.
We figured it out, did we?
Yes, we did. I don't know. My just to say, I seem to travel around with a lot of energy, as do we all. But for some strange reason, the more excited I get about things, the more blocked I get to participate. Happens all the time. So for whatever the reason is, I can get onto my iPad. Thank God I have more than one device, but my laptop, not working.
There's a lady that's a part of Blue Talks as well. Her name's Rosalind. And whenever her and I get in the same space, it's the same thing. Like tech just decides not to work.
It's just too much. And so, you know, everybody's just like, it all blows up.
Well, it's so good to have you. Okay. First question, or first statement, really.
Yeah.
This is completely casual. We're having fun. We're just learning about you.
I'm like all in for it all.
Exactly.
So I'm all in for it all.
So here's the hardest question of all. And I know it is for all of us. Please tell us a little bit about yourself. How would you describe yourself?
You know, it's a really funny thing because I've been in the coaching world for about 6 years now. And the famous line that everybody always says, oh, so what's your elevator pitch? What's your pitch that you use when you talk about like what you do? And you know what I did? I threw that whole thing out the window. And I sort of just wing it each time because to be very honest with you, I sort of feel like a tree. And, you know, this is my trunk. And then all of the things that I do are all the branches, you know? So I don't know. So it, depending on the energy that I'm feeling is the branch that I discuss. And somewhere along the way, if you stick around long enough, you get to hear about all of them. But like I sort of just have so many different layers, you know, like a really deep layer, 7-layer cake, you know, like those really good ones.
Rainbow ones?
Yeah. Or the ones with the like chocolate mousse in the middle, you know, I don't know, whatever does it for you. That's what I feel like I am. I always associate myself with like something delicious. I'm a foodie, so that's like the first thing you should know.
Okay,
And,
I never knew that.
Yeah, I am. And I don't know, I just something about me is that I really believe that in positivity. I really believe in pleasure. It's and happiness and luxury and not luxury and whatever it does for you to make you happy. And I sort of been like this for a long time. People used to see me in New York and ask me if I was originally from the Midwest because I had a smile on my face all the time. It was really, really funny, as if to say all people from the Midwest must walk around with a smile all the time on their face. I don't know. But anyway, this was like from like a long time ago. My dad gave me the nickname of Sunshine because I just kind of always walked around with this big smile on my face pretty much always. Yeah. And but I sort of always knew I was intuitive, like from the time I was super little. And I didn't know what to do with it. I'm like, if nobody's talking about it in your house, you kind of sort of feel like you're the odd one out. So like, let's not talk about it. And I had a sister who was 9 years older than me that was so freaking cool. And if she wasn't talking about it, I figured there's nothing to talk about over here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I sort of just like kept it to myself. I really just didn't say much about anything. But what happens is when you push information down, as we all know, it sort of just kind of pops up again. And I, in my book, which I'm calling Trust Your Intuition, I talk about it and I call them reruns. And when these reruns sort of just pop back up in your life, it's because all the parts of you are sort of saying, excuse me, got to pay attention to this. Excuse me, got to pay attention to this. And you're sitting there trying to keep pushing it down. But the reason why I kept on pushing it down was I felt like I was out of control. This information would just like show up in my ear, in my head, in my eyes. And I just didn't know what to make of it. So I would just push it down. And then I thought, oh, I gained control when I did yoga. Didn't work. Kept on coming back up, you know? And then one day, I think it was after I had my son and you sort of trapped in the house in February for a month and it was freaking cold and I couldn't go anywhere. And I finally decided I was going to put him in baby snuggly and do the whole thing and drive 3 feet and go get a cup of coffee. And then when I turned around, of course, he was sleeping in the back in the car seat, you know, after he'd just been screaming for bloody hell for, I don't know, 20 minutes. And I just sat there and I was just crying. And in that moment, my mom came to me. And it's in my book, this channeled message that she said to me. But basically, she came to me and I knew it was her. And she basically said to me that, you already have what it is that you need to do to be a mother. There isn't anything special you need to know or need to learn. Just be who you are, and I am always here for you. And so in that moment, I sort of knew that that was her, and you think that that would be enough, but no, it wasn't. And then 18 months later, I was on the highway, and I live in New York, and I was in Queens at the time, and there was these, I don't want to say foul language, so there were these people who were throwing pennies over an overpass, and cars were getting into really serious accidents, like when you do that kind of thing. And I heard this voice basically scream, "Move over." And I moved, and the car behind me got hit. And at that moment, I was like, okay, so this is like real. This is like a real thing. And I'm going to start to learn to trust this thing. But I still didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to reach out to it. I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't know how to ask it questions, nothing. And I honestly didn't know how to do it until about 6 years ago. And my son's 33, just to give you an idea of how long that took. And reason, and this is like the thing I do, is because I didn't trust it. I kept on asking everybody outside of myself. I had this like feeling that like we're all trained kind of as children to look at our eyes, to look at our parents' eyes. Is that right? Is this wrong? When you get those looks from your parents telling you, you better just stop, and you stop when you're a baby, or like the encouraging look that you get that says, oh, you're doing it right. And so you keep moving. And you're so trained when you're children to like hone into that. But there was no eyes to look at to see, well, do I trust this? Is this the right thing? I tried that already once when I was little. Everybody I thought it was crazy. So who do I look at? And the answer came up, me. I trust me. I trust me. And when that trust me part started screaming in my head, I knew, okay, like I have to like disassociate myself from all the people that don't understand this and just go full in anyway. And I was all in. So in 6 years, I went from, I don't know what this is, to I'm an intuitive. And I tried out all the other acronyms. I'm psychic, I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other thing. But the truth is that it's like with any other acronym that you decide to put underneath your name, there's so many layers to it. So like if you say you're psychic, people think I'm the psychic medium, the Long Island psychic. I speak to dead people, which I can do, by the way. And I speak to animals that have passed too. But I also can speak to animals that are alive, and I can forecast people's future, and I can get into the wisdom of what I think is the right thing for them. And I can talk about their soul's destiny. And I don't know, if I started to talk about like all the pieces of myself, we probably would have to sign off because it would take too long. So I just sort of just do me. And I figure anybody who actually really wants to delve into themselves, and really who I work with are people who really want to build trust, even if you're not interested in developing your own intuition. I really think that fundamentally we all have intuition, but whether you want to just follow your intuition when you're cooking, or whether you want to follow your intuition when you're picking at your bathing suit or your furniture in your house, or you decide you want to connect to your spirit guides, whatever it is, I'm your person. And then I happen to be a very talented oracle reader. So all of those things are just like mediums, like, yes, I can read oracle cards. Yes, I can read chakra stones. Yes, all of it, because they're all fractals of me. And the thing is that when we discover all the fractals of ourselves, then you sort of discover all the pieces of yourself that you sort of just didn't tend to. So when people talk about self-care, I'm very busy, because it's just all the pieces that you sort of just have to pay attention to. You can't just like pay attention to this part. You have to pay attention to all the parts. And so my favorite thing to do actually is to be quiet, because there's a lot of noise going on. So I hope that answered your question.
Good. I'm going to make it even harder. You already gave us one word. Okay, see, now your energy is just making me bubble up too. It's fine. No, I want to make it even harder. If you could have 3 words to describe you, and I love one that you had before, you said sunshine. What would those 3 words be to describe who you are as a person?
Light, possibility, magic.
See, that wasn't hard for you.
No.
And I'm going to put words in your mouth right now and just say that that's because of the work that you do, that self-trust, that self-awareness, that self-care to see that. And there's so many things that you mentioned that I thought were really cool. And I know that we connected in a business coaching way, and you used the word soul plan. I had never heard that before. What is that, and how does that tie into all the facets that you were talking about?
So in my journey to become intuitive, like I'm this way, my other part of me, I am a speech language pathologist, which all has to do with like frequency. And the reason why I became a speech language pathologist was because my dad was convinced that I was never going to make it in the musical theater realm. So do something else. So I love singing. It's all frequency and sound. I love acting. I love storytelling. Love all those things. You know, I just like part of who I am. And then one day I was sitting in a class trying to decide what it is that I wanted to do. And I was really more interested in the guy down the, you know, my line in an auditorium. I really wanted to go have a beer with him because he was really hot. And I really wasn't paying attention to what they were saying in the front. It was one of those classes where like 85 professors come up and they talk about the profession that you should major in. It was like one of those. And I was like so busy, like flirting with him. And then all of a sudden the whole auditorium got stone quiet. And then I had to look up, like what's going on. And there was this woman in the front. She was like one of my favorite professors eventually. And she was sort of doing this like stimmy thing. And I'm like, what is that? What is she doing? And then she just stopped and she said, imagine if you were trapped in your own mind and you couldn't speak. And as soon as she said that, voice came to me.
Oh my God, my heart.
A voice came to me, and it's on the back of my business card. You probably can't read it because it's backwards, but it says, no voice is too small to be heard. That was the voice that came to me. And in that moment, I knew I had to do this. So I became a speech language pathologist, working with people who couldn't find their own production of speech, working with kids that are really, not just the kids that couldn't say T and L. I mean, I do that too, but really severely motor impaired children that couldn't produce sounds, couldn't communicate with their parents. And it was like the biggest joy of my life when they could finally tell their parents what they were thinking. Smile. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I got moms crying because they picked the kid up from nursery school, and when they said to the kid, so what'd you do today? They actually answered. So like, I understood that from a mom perspective, and I couldn't imagine what that would be like, not being able to get that information. But to each one of my kids that I got, my daughter has told me numerous times that I should have kept a number, but I never did. So many of them, I said, just watch out what you wish for, because soon you're going to be telling this kid to be quiet. No, never. Every single one of them. Oh my God, he won't stop talking. So yeah, so I went from doing that and finding that frequency for them and finding that conversation for them. And then one day I'm sort of just like, I don't know, looking at like, you know, those coupon books that you get?
Yes.
And there's some articles that some poor person is hoping that somebody's going to read. Right. So that was me. And all of a sudden I see this article about like frequency and soul plan reading and frequency of your name. And I'm like, and it just spoke to me again. And I'm like, you need to do this. And it was like 5 minutes from my house. So I'm like, and I said to my husband, this is what you're giving me for my birthday. And I went and I did it for 3 days, and I became a certified soul plan reader. And basically, soul plan is it's like a name frequency situation. So it takes numerology, astrology, and Hebrew letters, and you look at the names and the frequency of the letters of your name and how the letters combine together, and they provide your soul's destiny, your soul's challenge, your soul's goals, and then your worldly destiny, your worldly challenge. And in the center of the whole thing is your reason why you came here. And what's so cool about it is you can take your birth name that you were given, and that gives you the underlying reason why you were here. But then what's cool is I got an expanded soul plan. Took it even further. And I started to do it on people with the names that they actually use. So if you got married or if you changed your name, and how many of us use our middle name? Like, I don't. And like, what does that say about you? And by somehow changing, just adding an initial or adding a this, you change the course of what you're attracting. And I actually did this. I used to have my business page under just Robin Pallak. Right. And then I changed it. I was fooling around one day and I said, well, what would happen if I did Robin Pallak coaching? And the whole thing changed. Who I was attracting changed. And in like 1 week, it went up like 200 people viewing. And all of a sudden it started spiking. That's my business page. And now it became my Instagram page, still under 500. So don't get too excited. But I really do think that people find me more, and the people that find me more are the people that are really interested, because you always get people who are curious, you know, those people. But at the beginning, when I started, I was always getting the people who were like trying to convince me that there was no such thing as spirituality. And as soon as I changed the name, the people changed. All of a sudden, it wasn't people trying to convince me that I wasn't. It was the people who wanted to know more. So I was getting closer to the people who I really actually wanted to talk to. And that was cool.
That is really cool. Scotty, do you have any questions?
Yeah, lots of things. Yeah, really amazing stuff. And I'm quite curious how you kind of train and coach into this. I know for myself, because that's my only reference is me, right? So I've had times where I'm leaving the house and my intuition is going, you forgot something. I'm like, no, I got all the things. What are you talking about? Like, I literally have that conversation in my head and I like it's another person. No, I got it. And I get in the truck and I drive away. And sometimes I'm a half a block away. Sometimes I'm a long ways away. I'm like, oh, I totally forgot whatever it was. But it comes to me. But my intuition was telling me before I left the house, no, you're forgetting something. I wish it would be less vague. So is there a way to coach so they could be less vague? You forgot something.
Well, what if you could ask it?
Yeah.
What if you could ask it?
Right.
You can do that. I can teach you how to do that. And
so you ask that question. Well, what am I forgetting? Oh, I'm forgetting something. Okay, what is it?
What if you could have a spirit guide that you can connect with by name, and you could ask that spirit guide that question? Like, I'm feeling like I forgot something. Like, what did I forget? What do I need to know right in this moment now, in this timeline?
Yeah. Ooh, I like that idea.
I like that end part. Not the right now, but in this timeline. It's like, oh, I didn't even think about that dimension of it.
So what's really super cool right now is we are in summer solstice. Yes. So summer solstice is a really amazing time because it is, and everybody talks about manifesting, you know, up the wazoo. You see it all over the place, right? Yeah. But the coolest thing about summer solstice is you don't actually have to manifest something. You can declare it. Ooh, and just as much as you could declare it, you could also decide that that's not your thing anymore. So what if something that seems to be a rerun in your life, like for me, it was Judgement. Okay, that was like me and Judgement had a really good relationship. Let me just tell you. We were real good buddies. And it comes up every so often. And then I'm just like, I told you I'm not having a partnership with you anymore. But when I go to bed at night, this is something I do. I lay down in my bed and I say, I am releasing all the timelines in my life that no longer serve me to my highest good. I am releasing them from my soul contract. I am declaring them null and void in every timeline, subconsciously and unconsciously, so that they're null and void. And I am asking for all the fractals of who I am, all the parts of myself, all that wisdom, to extend my light to the highest version of myself and allow me to experience my highest timeline at human speed, by the way, because I hate when I wake up sweating. So that's just something I add. So in the highest timeline at human speed, And then I say all the little things that I want. And so when we're in summer solstice, instead of manifesting or doing any of the things that you might think you need to do, I just ask for it. I ask. I like the wisdom to know what I need to do to be able to create the oracle deck that I'm creating right now, and assisting me in finding the artist that I need. I'd like the wisdom that I know that I have in a future timeline to come down to me now, to give me the visibility to be able to get my book out there to the eyes of the people who really need it for themselves to expand their own self. And then I say, and so it is. And I let it go.
I started
and I believe it.
I started writing that down, but then I realized I just need to.
Well, that's why we have the replays.
Well, you know something, just so happens that I'm making a new freebie. It's not really ready yet.
Ooh.
And it's the 8 steps that you need to connect to your spirit guides. It comes with a video and a PDF.
Nice.
And I happen to know Laurel. So I'll send that to you and she can share it. And I just decided that everybody needs to know this. It's not a secret, but it's the part that's hard is to implement it on your own. Like, I really find that you need to be with other people who are doing the same. And I'll tell you why. When you're with somebody who has higher light, higher frequency, yours goes higher. So all those little doubts that can creep in, this is not going to work. That's a bunch of bull crap. This is never going to happen. All those things, they sort of go into the back of your mind, and the trust part, the belief part, seeing it forward part, that's the part that you hold on to. And I'll tell you another little trick. When you do, I call it the forward timeline pull. If you, both of you, can create something in your mind right now that you actually want to see happening, but get really clear on how it looks, how you feel when you're going to get there, who's going to be with you when you're going to get there, what do you smell, what do you hear, what are you going to do to celebrate that event, right? And now hone it into your body. And you are now creating the popcorn kernels to get to that space. And you actually have created the forward timeline in time and space for the actuality of the event that you just manifested in your mind. And now you just get to connect the dots until you get there. And then if you remember the process, well, that's an amazing TED Talk. Right? Because everybody wants to know, oh, like, that's great that you got there, but how did you do it? What were the steps that you took to do it? And like, so when you just say, and if I just said, well, you know, you just have to trust yourself. Well, that's not really a TED Talk, right?
Exactly.
People sort of want to know, like, okay, so what was the nitty gritty? And what did you do when you didn't trust? And what did you do then? And then how did you find the trust again? And how did you do all of that? And yeah, that's my story. That's the book.
Trust your intuition.
Yeah, and it's funny because originally I was going to call it Tap into Your Intuition because that's something that I always say. But my publisher said to me that people aren't going to understand that. It's like almost too high for them to understand that thing. So instead, I'm calling it Trust Your Intuition, Tap into Your Intuition, a guide to tap into your intuition and unleash your own magic.
Ooh,
sweet.
I like the magic.
You know, it's about you. It's not, I mean, I'm telling you my story, but in the book, there are really steps for you to actually do it. And the whole book is essays and channeled messages, channeled meditations that come along with a podcast that's you can actually access now. It's in iTunes. And it's just these very short meditations that, and some of it's just me talking, but it's about shifting your perspective. And that's the real trick. You ask me, what do I do when I mentor people? It's about shifting your perspective. So when you live with people who don't believe in this stuff, their perspective of what life is, and thinking that everything has to be hard or bad for the good to happen, that they have to do the hard in order for the good to happen, that you can't just trust the good, that there has to be some other big shoe falling on your head thing happening, you know, right? That there has to be some pain associated with it. And then there are also the other group of people who feel like, well, you need to walk through the pain to find the wisdom. Well, there is pain in finding wisdom sometimes. And sometimes it's about moving your resistance over.
Yes.
Taking the resistance of the possibility that you could actually trust yourself. All of that resistance that you've got, like, remember I told you about the emotions that you sort of shove down? So taking all of that and sort of just letting it go. And you can't let go of that like in one meditation or one breath work class or any of that, because we've been doing this since the day we've been born. You know, when your mom comes in when you're 2 days old and she's like, shh, you're waking up the whole house. You already got judgment on you and you didn't even do anything, right? And then you sort of like learn how to change your cry as a baby. And then she says, oh, I've got you. You're just faking it out. You're not really hungry. You just want to get picked up. So you've got judgment going up the wazoo ever since you were a baby. And it wasn't because she was a bad mom. It's just, you know, the way human nature is. And so getting rid of all of that, and understanding that you had value just by breathing, you have worth just by having your heartbeat, that's worth everything. And if you don't think it's true, go in a hospital where people are waiting on a wait list for a new heart. Yeah. And their heart's failing and yours is beating. And you're going to understand your value and your worth. Because when it all comes right down to it, and those moments, nobody's thinking about that last deal that they made. They're thinking about the last person they spent it with. They're thinking about, what didn't I do? They're thinking about, how could I have made it better? Right. I'm blabbering.
That's awesome. That's huge. You know, it's interesting. One of the part of the journey that I've been on that's been fascinating is so I compete in ultra distance triathlon and stuff. And I was in a near death crash in 2015. And honestly, my big takeaway after a while was like, well, why did I crash? Because it seems like every time I'm about to do really well, I do something to pull the rug out and something happens. It doesn't matter what race it was, the world championships in Australia or Holland, or it doesn't matter. Every time something right out of the blue pulls the rug out. And I started working with a fellow. Well, I started working with a fellow who showed me that when I was born, I was adopted, and I spent 6 months in a hospital and screaming for attention and quite often not getting it in that sense, right? We're assuming, but because nurses are great, but they're busy. It's not right. They come by when their shift allows for it, or somebody's not coding. So he was showing me that I learned things in that first 6 months. I learned patterns that were still playing out over and over and over again. That if you want attention, you have to break, you have to hurt, you have to. It was like, whoa. So but
there's one more thing that he didn't hit.
Yeah. Ooh, tell me.
Are you a parent?
Yes.
Okay. You know that feeling? Do you remember the feeling when you were holding your baby next to your chest? And you smelled the top of their head and you felt completely connected to that baby?
100%.
If you're not a parent, you're not going to know what I'm talking about. But the top of a baby's head, I don't care what anybody says, it smells like cooked brownies. I just don't care what you say. It's the true statement. Yeah. But anyway, that connection and feeling their little heart on your chest, okay? Mm-hmm. That's what
Father's Day yesterday. You're speaking to me. Like there's not a love in the world, period. Full stop.
That is right. Yeah. So that is what you didn't get. You can be the best nurse in the world, the best caretaker in the world, but it's a job. And you can love that baby. Like I love those kids that I worked with as a speech pathologist. But in the end of the day, they left at a half an hour and the next person came. Okay. And not to say that they weren't important in my life, but I honestly don't remember their names. I I just don't. They become one of thousands of kids that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I could go away for 5 years and I could spot my kids in a crowd. I could feel their energy when I am away.
Mm-hmm.
When you have that soul connection, that's not something that you can ever lose. So when my father was dying a year ago, and he was worried that he'd be forgotten, I took his hands that were all like crumpled up from stroke, and I massaged them out, and it really hurt him. And I put my palm on his, and then I pulled it apart, and I asked him if he felt the energy, and he said yes. And then I put it back, and I said to him, this is an imprint on my heart. And wherever you are, I will feel it. And I will always recognize you. And that's a connection. No matter where you go and where you are and whatever time and space continuum, you will just recognize. I'm going to blow your mind a little more. You are part of a soul family. And the people that you connect to in this lifetime are part of that soul family that you probably knew in another lifetime. And that adoption perpetuated you to become mature beyond your years. And I bet donuts, when you were in school, in elementary school, people told you were too serious. They told you that you took things too seriously, right? And then I bet you could never get those kids that were all, you wanted to be part of that group, those silly kids, but it really wasn't who you were. You were from another space because you were hurt at a really young age. And when you are, that empathic part of yourself has to come out and has to palpate the world to discover what's safe. And so you started to learn how to read energy at 3 days old. What's real, what's not, what's safe, what's not. And that's not something that usually happens until later on. So that's what I have to watch.
Wow.
Yeah.
It just feels confusing and odd, and I just don't do well in big groups of people and stuff because I don't feel like I don't fit in or belong anywhere. So it's amazing that there's somebody like you that can coach through that.
And I want to tell you something else. The reason why you don't do well in those groups, because I had a similar issue, and it used to drive my husband crazy when I would come into the room, and I just knew he was having an off moment, off day, whatever, and I could just sense it. And I finally had to explain to him, I'm like, I know you're not really thinking you're doing anything, but I can sort of just feel it. So if you want to talk to me about whatever that it is, I'm here. But I know something's going on. So don't sit there and tell me you're fine. You can tell me you got it. You can tell me I'm okay. I'm dealing with it. But don't like patronize me and tell me I'm fine. Because that's just insulting. And so the people that you're closest to, I think you should say the same thing to. And I feel like you have a daughter.
Son.
Then maybe it's your wife. And I feel like she's a little closed a little bit. Yeah. And like sometimes that she's not always being so transparent about what she's thinking. Right. And so you get to say to her something like that. Like when something's happening to you, I sort of get a sense in your energy that something's going on. When you're ready to talk about it, I'm here to support you. Like, you know, and I don't know, sometimes that weirds people out because like, how do you know that? Like, don't get into my head. But on the other hand, it's who you are.
Right. Yeah, my wife is actually, she's pretty open and good, but I think I'm too busy to allow for it a lot.
Well, maybe you're resisting it.
Probably. Yeah. Hiding.
Yeah. Yeah. And Laurel, you have a whole relationship with your cats.
I do. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah. You have a whole thing going on with your cats. And I don't know if you believe in intergalactic beings, but there's a family called the Reruns, which are all basically like cat people.
Yes. I've heard of those. Yes.
I'm actually associated with that group also, but so cats, I mean, you've heard this before, are very intuitive in nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason why, because they get you without you explaining it.
Exactly. It's like I need pets that can look after themselves because I needed something like I couldn't look after myself in those darker times. So I have cats as therapy pets, unofficial, of course, so that I can, when I'm anxious, I literally just rub my face in their belly. Or I'll go up to them and you know how their ears are sticking out? I'll be like, but no teeth. I make sure I wrap my gums. It looks hilarious. And you'll watch them like move their ear just a little. They're like, I like it, but I want to playfully run away. And they do. They know exactly when I'm happy, when I'm sad, what I need. And the one cat that doesn't usually like to be touched, he couldn't breathe about a month ago because he was trying to have a hairball and it just wasn't coming.
I remember you said you talked about
Yeah.
this.
And I'm watching him like do this. And I'm like, oh my God. So I give him like the kitty Heimlich maneuver. He comes back. And after that, our relationship has been so much closer. And he knows it. And I feel it. And now he'll let me pet him without the whole like, don't touch me. As before. Now he'll let me rub him and pick him up and all of that. Because he's my daughter's therapy kitty. The cat that we had before is my husband's therapy kitty, and then Cheryl is mine. We all kind of have our own. It's a beautiful relationship.
That's really very sweet. Very
Aww.
sweet. No.
Now I want to shove my face in her fur. But I kick them out for meetings because sometimes
no, they're all over the place. They'd be right in front of your face.
Well, that and Butterfly, my husband's therapy kitty, in the middle of the afternoon, like 1:30, she's like, Mom, are you? I'm lonely. And then as soon as my husband gets home, as soon as he sits down, like she'll follow him around until he sits, and then she'll jump on his lap and stay there until supper time. She's like, you're home, you're my bed. I'm going to sleep on you to help you de-stress from work. It's
really funny. I have a white golden, and we got him right before COVID, and so he's been home a lot with my husband home a lot because nobody could go to work and everything like that. So the dog has become an emotional support dog for my husband, who, when he gets frustrated, curses. So whenever he hears that F word, Cooper comes running wherever he is and rattles his lap and stands in front of him. He's like, oh, you're stressed. I'm going to help you out. It's really very fun.
Aw. Now, I know that you had mentioned before that you were doing furry side chats.
Yes.
What are those? Even the title has me going, okay, I know it has to do with pets, or are we dressing up as furries? I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's pets.
So remember I talked about my layers, my branches?
Yes.
Yeah. So for a long time, I had this issue about being such the word prolific is coming into my head. Oracle card reader. It's a way for me to connect. It's a 3D way for you to see what I'm connecting to, and you could see it and people really respond to it, you know? And I didn't really like advertising it or using it because I kept on thinking that people, I'm sorry, my phone is dinging and everything. I turned everything off. I don't know. Anyway, that people, I lost my train of thought. First I tried, right. That people wanted, I lost my whole train of thought.
You were talking about being prolific, and you didn't know why that word popped up.
With the Oracle decks. And so I sort of knew I could do like these conversations with animals and everything like that, but I didn't really want to be like a carnival act. I remember I told you that me and Judgement had a really good thing going on. Mm-hmm. So I had to do a little work and sort of just understand that everybody needs different things. There are those people who need to go in Carnival and go to the psychic person that has the sign flashing psychic and go read the cards with the globe and the whole thing. There are people who like that. And then there are people who want like a private call and want to call me. And then there are people who see this thing on the side of the road or in the middle of Manhattan, and they want to go upstairs to that little corner apartment and go in there. They're all different kinds of people, and everybody gets to do and get what they need. You know what I mean? And just because they're doing that doesn't mean people associate me with being a carnival act. So as soon as I got that in my head and I got it straight, I said, well, why not offer this? Because I was doing it anyway with people who work with me. But I wasn't advertising that I did it. So Fireside Chat is a small group in Zoom where you bring your animal and you, and we have a conversation. And it's usually with 5 other people. I have like 6 people in the group. It's really tiny. And we go around the room and we talk to their animals, and they get to ask questions to their animals, and their animals talk to them and tell them things that they want them to know. And that's how it goes. It's a lot of fun, and people tell me they feel very relieved and just closer to their animals. And I don't know, I feel like there are all different kinds of relationships in the world. I really believe that our pets are here to allow us to be able to get to that destiny that we are aiming for, and they're our assisted companion for the ride. And even if you lose a pet along the way, they help you get the next one, and they come in and then they're with you and they assist you again. So I really believe that they're there for that purpose. And I'm not going to lie to you, when I was starting to learn how to connect to my intuition, and I would go up in my meditation, you know, past 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and I'd be like in the 8th dimension or something. It was always this white dog that sort of just would come around. And if you are in a circle with very high frequency people, so I'd be sitting with 12 other people, and we call it out, whose white dog is that? And I'm like, oh, that's mine. And then somebody would say, oh, you know, I saw like a dragon. Then the other person would go, oh, that's mine. And we saw like a lion, and everybody, like 3 people would go, that's mine, because that's Lyrian. And then we saw like this hummingbird, and then people would start just like calling out, oh yeah, that's mine, that's mine. Because what winds up happening is once you get up there, you get access to all their information that's up there. So it's like everybody's stuff sort of is floating around. And if you are on the same line and frequency, you can sort of get a feel on it. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a very cool thing. So I always had this like white dog, white dog, white dog. And at the time I had lost my lab, and she was more yellow. But then on the internet one day, I spotted him. I don't know if you could see him.
Aww.
But as a baby, and I'm like, I have to have him. I have to have him.
The ears. I want to rub the ears.
So this is Cooper, and he's definitely my buddy.
Aww.
He's
Cooper is so
buddy.
Cute.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to double check, Scotty.
What?
I wanted to double check with Scotty. I was like, I know your original scheduled time is up, but we didn't know if there was somebody else coming in afterwards.
Oh, well,
you noticed my eyes were looking down. I was just checking with Corey. I think we have a gap next.
Okay.
I was just trying to confirm with him.
And then I want to be mindful of your time, Robin. Are you okay to continue? Okay.
I'm very verbose, so you know you can keep me here as long as you like, and you can say goodbye.
No, because I really want to know, as someone who can be in the, I'm just going to use the word woo-woo realm, sure. To me, the word woo-woo really just means it's something that particular person hasn't understood. There's always science behind all of it. It's just, well, how much are you allowing yourself?
It's very interesting that you say this, because I got this information about 2 weeks ago that I should go speak to people who are science-based, the medical professionals. And the reason is, and I'll tell you why, is, and I can speak for it because I was one, or I still am one, or whatever, is that, you know, you can learn everything that but really, it's not even just medical or science. It's really just anything. So you can go to school and learn anything, right? You can learn about Shakespeare so that you could become a good writer. You can learn about anatomy so that you could be a doctor, a nurse, a therapist, or whatever it is you want to do. You can read all the psychology books. You can do all of that, learn all of that stuff. But the difference between learning that stuff and getting the degree and being gifted at what you do is intuition. So it's a marriage between like what you actually know from the research, from the books, from the mentors that you think are so amazing. But no matter how many books you read, no matter how many things you learn, watch, see, until you tap into your intuition, you're never going to be able to get to that access point where you actually feel it's effortless and you're gifted. So I'm going to tell you something. For the longest time, and this is before I became intuitive, I used to say to people, just on like a make fun of myself kind of a thing, oh, you know, I'm a little weird like that. I get like these intuitive hits. Like that's like what I would say. Or, you know, I'm a little like off, like I get that stuff. And the reason for it was because when a family came into my room that I've never met before, I would let them walk in. The parent would come in, sometimes the father, sometimes the sibling. It was like a whole party coming into my room, and they would be there. And within, like, I'd say 3 minutes, I knew the deal. I knew how long this kid was going to need therapy. I knew what kind of therapy the kid was going to be in. I knew the relationship between the mother and the child. I could tell how the father felt. I could tell if the siblings speak for the child. I mean, I just got the whole picture, the whole movie flashed before my eyes. Now, by the way, I never thought that that was me being psychic. I just thought that was me being a speech therapist. Until I started speaking to other speech therapists, and nobody else was doing this. Nobody knew what I was talking about. You do what? They'd say. What do you mean? Like you have a quick diagnostic test you do? I'm like, no. I just like sort of just, they come in and I don't know. I sort of just watch them, and I don't know, in under 5 minutes, I sort of just have an idea, and I'm usually right. And I kind of sort of just get the idea, and I sort of know, well, no, they need PT, OT. This is a whole body thing. I just knew. And they're like, you know, we don't do it that way. How do you do that? Like, well, could you teach me that? And I didn't know how to teach it to them because I didn't even know how I was doing it myself. But intuition played in how I was such a good therapist.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't just what I knew. I mean, it was part of what I knew, but it wasn't just what I knew. I mean, I could sit here all day long and doing this whole thing with my fingers and show you this is your teeth and this is your tongue and showing you the spots. That's what I know. Right?
Yeah.
I could tell you about the valve and your vocal cords, and I could tell you what you need to do to keep your voice clear and all of that stuff. That's what I know from a book. And then there's the stuff that I just know. And so the stuff that I just know, that juice that you just know from the wisdom of who you are, is your intuition. And everyone does it all the time, and whatever you're gifted at. There's always there's a couple of things within you, that you're just gifted at. You do it. You just don't even think about how you know how to do it. You just do it. You know how many times I assemble something and I just put the instructions on the side?
I do that, but that's because I'm a guy.
I used to write the instructions.
What?
In the architecture industry, I used to do architectural design for commercial buildings. I used to help write those 3-inch books where we give you 4 of them to help explain how to put the building together. I would help write those, and I'm always like, no, I don't need those. I'm good.
Right.
How do you tell, Robin, the difference between, like, a lot of things you're saying? I'm like, oh, I've kind of felt that, but then I can't tell if that's just judgment because of past experience. Like, oh, you're just judging these people. Don't judge. You don't know. Separating between judgment and intuition. And then there's the time when you have this feeling that somebody's this and you're just dead wrong. It's like, whoop, that wasn't it. How do you disseminate all of that?
Well, that was a couple of questions in there, so let me see if I can remember them all.
Judgment versus intuition.
So the first is intuition, right? So how do you know if it's intuition or you? Okay, here we go. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's your favorite flavor ice cream?
That's impossible to answer. All of them.
Have one that you gravitate towards.
My favorite flavor of ice cream is yes. Ice cream. Okay, Black Forest, sure.
Okay, so that's your favorite flavors. How do you know that?
Because it's yummy.
Because you just know that's the flavor that does it for you, right?
Right. Unless it's Ben and Jerry's Tonight Dough or Cherry Garcia, unless it's Tiger Stripe, unless it's never mind.
I'm gonna give you another quick question. You ready? Where do you like to be kissed that goes right to your soul?
Ooh. Like on the lips for real, yeah.
Okay, how do you know that?
I just do that. Yeah, that's not a definable.
There.
There's too many levels to that.
Actually, no, it's not too many levels. That's the thing. It is the core of it all. You just know. You just know. I'm going to give you another one. If you've ever been in love, and I'm saying that because I know both of you are, but there are people that are listening that may not or may have been. So if you've ever been in love and you meet that person in the first few minutes, you knew that that person was the person you're going to fall in love with. And it made no sense.
Yep.
How did you know that?
Yeah, you just know. It's not and that's a fascinating thing that I've noticed. It's interesting. My wife and I celebrate 30 years marriage coming up in July, and I have friends that are single and recently divorced or whatever. I went cycling in the mountains with one fella, and he was in the passenger seat while I was driving us back from the mountains from cycling, and he had Tinder, I think, and he was picking a date for the week. Like he was swiping up and down and left, whatever he was doing.
Left, right, center. Yeah, I know.
Sure, whatever that is. And he would every once in a while say, oh, look at her. She's pretty cute. I don't know, whatever he's doing the thing. But it was fascinating because you're trying to pick intuition based on a list of qualifications. Like, oh, well, she's whatever, athletic. She's got whatever color hair. She's got, a features list. I'm like, I didn't pick my wife based on a features list. Like, it was just a thing. It was, I literally woke up in the middle of the night at her parents' house. And I just was like, I'm going to ask you to marry me tomorrow. And then I went back to sleep. And wasn't a thought process. I didn't have a checks and balances list. It was just, well, that's happening. So, and even now, like, I think sometimes that's an interesting piece. I have been guilty once in a while falling into the modern checklist thing. Well, she doesn't do this or she doesn't do that or she doesn't. And then after I just go, well, yeah, I just love her. Like,
I mean, I don't know why some days, but yeah.
Because if you look at the check and balances sheet, you kind of think maybe I should get a Tinder app. Right?
Maybe.
No.
It's funny, but I don't think the people who are on Tinder are looking for forever. I think it's a shopping list.
They're not looking for Ms. Right. They're looking for Miss Right now.
Yeah. And I think they're also looking for Miss Lust now.
First, use
or
your
Mr. Lust now.
Unlock the device.
Sorry, my phone sometimes listens to me and I don't want it to.
I don't know. I've been with my husband, married for 38 years, but I've been with him for 40. And I met him when I was standing in front of the library at 7:30 in the morning, and we were all standing there waiting to get into the library. And I heard him laugh, and I turned around, and I saw his face, and I saw his eyes and the sparkle when he was laughing. And I'm like, I have to meet this person.
Yep.
And there's no logic.
Mm-hmm.
The logic goes completely out the window when chemistry is involved in the love department. And if you try and use logic, the male part of our head, our brains, instead of the feminine part of our heads, and we all have both, you usurp your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And that's resistance. So, I don't know, when I was getting married and I was walking down the aisle, there was none. I felt like I was wearing slippers and I was just going to go on the couch and we were going to watch television. That's how simple it felt to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to tell you that it's been simple for 40 years. I'm not going to, bullshit you guys. The truth is that if you actually really want to be in a relationship, well, that's not necessarily always my feminine mind. That's my logical mind, knowing that there's work that I have to do all the time to be very conscious, let go of judgment, and allow him to be who he is and know that he'll get to do the same for me, and call him on it when he doesn't, and he gets to call me on it when I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Just be in all the way. And I don't know, we made that commitment. I think it was the year after his mom died, and we went for marriage counseling. And in the end of it all, we just both decided that we're just in.
Yeah.
And there'll be times, and so then I always tell people that in any relationship that you have, and this is going to sound a little not so sunshiny, but it's me. So in any relationship that you have, the way that you develop trust is when trust breaks.
Yeah.
When trust breaks, when the loyalty breaks, and then the circles move further apart, right? And then you have to sort of inch your way to each other and weave them back together so that you're in sync. Every single time you do that, you're breadcrumbing for the next one.
Mm-hmm.
That you believe in the fact that you can,
Mm-hmm.
that you can come back together, that you need to come back together, that you want to come back together. And sometimes you're so pissed off that you just, and I do all those things. We're not going to go to bed angry, la, la, la. We do all those things. But the truth was, one day I sort of just decided, I used to think I had to talk everything out until the last morsel of emotional baggage. And I sort of just decided that I don't have to do that anymore. And it was like 2 years into me becoming intuitive. And I sort of just decided, I sort of threw the whole house upside down when I did this, because I was changing so quickly. I mean, I went from,
Yep,
I'm not sure, to all in 6 years. So there's a lot of changing happening. And he's still here. And he doesn't really buy into most of this stuff, but he believes in me and that I do. And for somebody to stand by you and just know that that's what you need to be doing, and trust that for you, that means a lot. It means a lot. And so intuition is the unexplainable.
Mm-hmm.
And so those voices that you get in your head that you think is just imagination is your intuition being fed.
Ooh.
Daydreaming is your intuition in a future timeline. All those moments when you're daydreaming about something that could be happening, would be happening, should be happening, right? That's you creating a timeline in the future. Remember, I was telling you about future timeline pacing of something that you want. I changed my entire relationship with my father by simply timeline pacing. I could not go to his house alone for years. Had to have my husband with me because he was so verbally combative to me. I would leave all the time crying. And then I would take my husband with me all the time. And then one day I sort of just realized that I am actually in resistance to having a relationship with my father out of fear. And I was in my 50s. I'm like, that this is not okay. Like, it's not okay. So I created this timeline. I'd sit in my car. I'd create the timeline of what I wanted to have happening in my father's house before I left my house. Then I saw myself getting out of my car, walking up the steps, going up to his house, doing whatever I did in there. And then when I left that house, that there would be a smile on my face and a memory in my mind of how he enjoyed himself. And then when I pulled up to the front of his house, I did it again. I changed my whole relationship with him. So when you start to trust in that intuition that you think is just a whim, it's just a chemistry thing, you understand that you get to manipulate time. You get to manipulate relationships. And one of the biggest things that you have to do, and I hope I'm answering your question, is that you have to forgive yourself for being a human in this body.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive yourself for being frustrated and angry, for not getting it always right. And underneath it all, always trust that all the actions that you took were meant to happen, just the way that they unfolded. That nothing is a shoulda, woulda, coulda dance. That it all is an on purpose dance.
Mm.
Even the crappy stuff. And that's not saying that the crap has to happen for the good to happen, because that's just, scarcity. All those people out there saying, oh, you need to go through pain before you feel that. I don't believe that.
It just is. Everything else you added, it just is. This is
right.
what.
And the other thing also is, isn't it perspective? What one person thinks is negative and horrific, the other person thinks it's just something that happened.
Yeah, yep. It's just a thing that happened. Everything else we add, that's judgment, or that's whatever label.
Right.
That's a label. That's whatever. Right. The thing is what it is. It just happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing also is, it's none of my business.
Yeah.
So this was the biggest piece that I want to give to you. When you're with people and you sort of know in your mind what they should be doing, if they don't ask you, it's none of your business.
Yeah.
And if they ask you, then you let it go. What they do with that information that you give them, that wisdom that you're giving to them, they don't follow it, that's their choice.
Yeah.
Because everybody's on their own freaking journey. And if they are in scarcity and they believe, well, I need to suffer like you can't believe before I can have this wonderful thing happen to me, well, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, we're all the directors of our own life. We are. And sometimes I feel like I'm on the wrong page in my play. I'm like, can I get to the other part?
Can we have a rewrite on this scene?
Scratch that. Oh God.
Can we rewrite this scene? Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I heard that I love is you're not the cassette player. You're not the cassette. You're the cassette player. You could change the cassette. Now I'm in my 50s. So
ooh, I like that.
CD, MP3, whatever. You're not the MP3 file. You're the player.
Yeah. Right. Stop
playing that one. You don't like it anyway.
Right. Well, that's that timeline thing I told you to let go of before. Remember I said, just let it go. It's not your, and the thing is lots of times you hear that voice in your head, that little mantra in your head when you're trying to do something really exciting, like when you first started to do this podcast, and then in the back of your mind, you're going, I can't do that. Who the heck do I think I am that I could do that? What the heck?
What if it's terrible and nobody listens?
Right. Like, it's just going to be like stuff in the air that no one's going to hear. Like, wow. Right. And then you stretch yourself and you're like, but what if it isn't? And you trust yourself to think and believe that it could be more. And maybe this one word that someone says, that I say, that Laurel says, can change somebody's perspective, their life. Maybe then it's worth it anyway.
Yeah.
Ooh, so the question that I wanted to ask you earlier, Robin, was all of this stuff to some people may seem really woo-woo, and then we get caught up in the whole woo-woo thing. But how do you step into all of this with such confidence in your message, in your story, in how you're choosing to share and amplify this message? Hence, that's what this is called, right? How do you gain that confidence to just go and do it, even though there are those haters or people who don't agree with you or don't understand?
Because I'm part of that mastermind group that you and I are part of, where I let all my crap go. And I'm also part of another group. It's a thought leader group with very high frequency women who are doing stuff that's super cool that I admire. And they're not all doing the same thing I'm doing. They're doing different kinds of things. Yeah. And they see it in me. And, that's another one of my essays actually in my book. So my book, just so we all, I just want to explain,
Promote the heck out of the book. Promote the heck out of your book.
Yeah. So this book it started out as, me working with this wonderful coach, Sarah Cannell, and she has a thought leader group, and it's all for people who are thought leaders. They're not necessarily all book writers, but they're thought leaders. And I was working with her one-on-one. This is before the group actually started. And I sort of felt like I had this book in me, which is why I started to work with her. And then one day I was just after a cup of coffee in my PJs, where I sat down with my cup of coffee right next to me. And I don't know what the heck happened to time. All of a sudden I look up, my coffee has like a film on it, you know, like when you leave it for too long. Yeah. And I look, and this number 41 is over there. And I look back, and I created 41 statements. And I'm like, oh my God, this is my book. So excited, la, la, la. And then I get on the next call with her. She goes, well, that's really amazing that you did that. They're all channeled messages. That's wonderful, terrific, good for you. But I think each one of these could be an essay. And I'm like, uh-oh. So then I started writing these essays in no particular order. I started writing them. And then as I was writing them, all of a sudden I start getting these channeled messages. And I have books of channeled messages because I do a lot of automatic writing, which is another way that I connect. Yeah. And I started adding these channeled messages to these essays and then these meditations, and it became this whole layered effect. But there's one particular thing that I talk about in there, and that is you don't know till you know. We all expect ourselves to know it before we know it, but how could you do that? You can't know it till you know it. And then you said one thing, and there was an essay that I wrote about this. What was the thing you said, Laura?
Which one?
The last question you asked me, you said,
oh, about the woo-woo, like how do you gain that confidence to just do it anyway?
Right. Well, I didn't have it. I kept on going, well, why am I writing this? You got Gabby Bernstein writing about this stuff. You got Colette Baron Reed writing about this stuff. You got Brene Brown writing about stuff. Like, who actually wants to hear about me? Like, why would you want to hear from me?
Yeah.
And then they would be like, but you have a different way of telling it. You have a different story to tell. And then I spoke to my mentor, who actually coached me to become this intuitive. And she's like, you'll know what you need to do. And then I kept on writing, and I kept on writing, and I kept on writing, and I kept on writing. And here I am now at, I think, 275 pages of this book of all of these essays. And there's probably more, but that's where I stopped it because it's how much of me can you take in one book? And I just felt like this was like a dedication to all the people who needed like a permission slip to say, I believe in myself. And it really doesn't matter if the belief is like, I want to open my own entrepreneur space and I want to do my own thing. Or I decide I want to have a child without a husband. Or I want to go take a trip around the world and I have 15 cents in my pocket and I'm going to get it sponsored. Or I don't know, whatever it is, the thing that you think that you want to do, but you believe it and you think that this is yours and you want to claim it, that it's for all of those people. Because the most important relationship that I think that we can have is the one to ourselves. And when we have that relationship to ourselves and we really believe in ourselves, then that trust is like sort of like a byproduct of that process. And if you would have asked me 6 years ago how I felt about myself, oh, do you love yourself, Robin? People would, people always, it's a lovely coaching question people say. And I would say, oh, I really like my eyes. I love the green in my eyes, or I like my hair color. I'd never say anything about me. It was like my little scapegoat. But the thing is, I can tell you now, there are things about me that I love. And one of the things about me that I love is that I trust myself. But that wasn't always the way it was. Because I grew up in a house that was Austrian, which is a very small country in Europe. And if you know anything about living with European people, their mainstay in life is perfection and judgment. I think they think that that's like the way you create the best of who you are. And one of the conversations I actually had with my dad at the end, and he was like, I got upset about something he said to me that was like really critical. And he said to me, when did you get so sensitive, Robin, that I can't just tell you what I think? And I said, Dad, I've always been this sensitive. I just never told you. I just never told you. And he goes, out of all my kids, I figured you were the one that was strong enough to take it. So I just gave it to you even harder because I wanted you to be everything that you could be. So in his mind, he's thinking all that judgment was so that I could stretch even further, because that's the way he was taught. Like I said, we start with this stuff really young. So if you believe that's the way to go, then that's what you pass on, and that's what you do. And I'd like to tell you that I don't do that with my kids, that I'm not critical, that I'm not this, that I'm not judgmental. It'd be a lie. It would be a lie. I mean, I try not to. They're both adults at this point. But my daughter will say to me, like, why don't you care, like, get involved with what my son's doing or something like that. And I sort of have gotten to this space of just saying to her and him, and then when he says something about her, the same thing, I say to both of them, I say, they have to figure it out for themselves. And do you remember when you guys were having children or getting married or anything like that, and all those people, the naysayers, would come around you? It's going to be really hard. You're not going to sleep. It's really hard those first 6 months, blah, 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 blah. You know, those people, right?
Yep.
Wouldn't it have been great not to get that?
I think what they didn't realize is that I don't care. I was so happy to be a parent. I loved it anyway.
Yeah, and but they did it even when you were getting married.
Yeah.
You think it's really good now, but just wait. You know, those people. And I always wondered what pleasure they got in that. Like, what was the pleasure? Like, why not say a happy story? But you very rarely hear the happy story. You hear, well, I heard all that crap. What if you could pass on a happy story to somebody? And I don't know. I just feel like we get to pass on that information for people to sort of step into. I don't want people to remember me as being the negative Nancy. You know? I don't know. I just think that you get to, and the truth about it is that this is the thing that they don't tell you when you start doing all this personal growth stuff. Talk about an addiction. It never ends. There is no end in sight.
It's cool, but you keep uncovering layers, and then there's more layers. Oh wow, when am I going to be perfect? Is that coming up? Is there a pill? Can I,
Well, you are already, by the way. You are already. You just don't see it. Oh, now I remember the thing. Sometimes when you don't know who you are yet, you have to look at your eyes through another person who can see it.
I can see it. I can see it. That's one of the things that I love about my intuition, Robin. And I had a spiritual mentor who taught me to not hide all of this stuff. I was very intuitive as a child. Nobody understood it, not even me. Nobody talked about it. It was like the weird stuff. So then I got to the point where, I think I shared this once or twice, I saw my dead dog in my room. And we're a very like science-based family. So we're like, oh my God, like there's got to be shadows. There's got to be something. I had every single member of my family come into my room and look for things, look for anything to explain it. Nothing could be explained. I was so scared. I shut off that part of me until basically 6 years ago, around the same time as
something
you.
about that number. Yeah.
I know. And I'm like, well, okay, what is this that I'm doing? Because in university, the only part of my spirituality really that I allowed myself to do was read eyes. And I use that as a part of my coaching, especially when, I'm working with stories now and doing story sessions and stuff. There's only so much that people are willing to say out loud. But when I get to look into your eyes and see the way that you think, the deepest, darkest secrets, your greatest desires, like your personality type, I get to see all of that behind your eyes. Then it helps me to put those pieces, those little pieces that you do tell me verbally, together in a way that makes more sense. So I love this whole discussion about intuition.
So I'm going to tell you a secret.
Yeah.
I used to be the same as you. But that's because I didn't understand energy. So let me tell you that I used to think that I needed to see people's eyes too. And then I started to understand a little bit more about energy. So now in my group, Amplify Your Intuition, on Tuesdays, I do Tune In Tuesdays, and I read oracle cards for people. And all I do is see their name, and I feel their energy, and I read cards. And I'm not going just by what I say. I'm going by the comments that I get. They're almost 100% spot on. Because when you're reading energy, energy does not lie. So I'm going to challenge you to get on a phone call with me one day, not see me, and do the same thing.
I've already seen your eyes. It's a little late.
But you can understand what someone's talking about in the moment without seeing their eyes, and get an energy reading on who they are, and get even more.
Oh yeah, that's the best part. It's like I get from my own experiences and my own trauma that every one of my clients is reflecting a part of my story and who I am.
Right.
So I have that greater understanding, and then the intuition in the moment to feel into that energy, yes. But I feel as though the looking into eyes allows me to get into cracks that are more difficult. Because it's like, as we're talking about layers this whole time, it's as if we have so many layers in our mind,
You
and
do.
that we've segmented all these parts, that some of them are so locked away between walls and doors and mazes and everything else, armors, masks, whatever, that I can crack through that and look beyond that when I look specifically in their eyes, even if I've
Right.
never spoken or met them
Right. Well,
before.
that's because you have clairvoyance.
I have so many things. That's just one.
No, but you have clairvoyance, claircognizance, and you also have the gift of hearing. So, not a little thing. If you go on my website, robinsPallak.com, on the top of the website, there is an intuitive test, and you can find out what your intuitive strength is. And by the way, if you take that test, it leads you to having a session with me for free for 15 minutes, or you can up level. And I do this tarot reading, this oracle reading that I invented. And it's about, discovering the parts of yourself. And I do that too. So there's this thing. Anyway, it's up there. I'll give you the free link for it up there. And I'll give you the free link for Amplify Your Intuition if you want to, your people want to join. And, but I just have to say that when you start scooping up your pieces, right, then you're not just this like empty shell not to be loved by yourself. Then you're sort of like almost like the coloring book that gets colored in. And you get to color all those colors. Yes. You get to color them all in. And the more you start to color all your pieces in, all those parts of yourself in, the more there is to love. I used to think that if I uncovered all those parts of myself, well, then there would be more for me to not like, more for me to worry about, more for me to not understand, or more for me to have to figure out. But that's actually not what happened.
That's awesome. So good. And I love to, we talked a little bit, I know we got to wrap up here. I got a next guest waiting.
Sure, no problem.
No, it's good. But I love to, one of the thoughts that I have is that people that try to go, it's this or that, it's intuition or science, right? Like, oh, intuition's you can't be. I love that somehow it's all of that, and we just don't understand. Like, you can call it quantum theory if you like,
right?
You can call it spirituality if you like, you can call it. It doesn't matter. You're just labeling. It's all the same thing. It's a connection. It's an energy. We're all tied in to this whole thing. And I think if I understand, you help people tune in to the static.
Yes. And
That's
find
awesome.
the trust within yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. So fantastic. Robin, I love how this worked out. We had a bit of a gap, and by golly, we
No,
filled.
this is great. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm going to give Laura the free gifts that I have for you, and you can attach them if you like.
Excellent.
If you sign up, I don't have my pre-launch stuff for my book out yet. So, but if you sign up on my website, I'm going to be having a link on my newsletter that I put out that you could sign up, because I'm going to be having bonus gifts when my books come out for free.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's the best I can do at this particular moment in time. And I hope that you do.
Yeah. And so head to robinspallak.com. That's ROBINSPOLLAK.com.
Yeah.
CK. So yeah, all kinds of good stuff there. I think I see a 15-minute session in my future is what I see.
I can't wait. I can't wait for that. That would be awesome. I really would love that.
I just want to say how much. Yeah, I just want to say how much I really appreciated this time together, Robin. We spend time together almost every single day, and I never feel like I really get to know a person until there's that deeper conversation. This has been beautiful, and now I feel like I know you to a point where I can share you with people. So
I love that.
Thank you.
It means so much to me. Let me know when I can share this on my Facebook page and in Instagram and wherever else I can share it. I would love to do that for you.
Yeah, for sure. That'll be definitely coming out. I know Corey will be reaching out to you as well. So thank you so much for your time today, Robin. This has been a gift.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Well, that was amazing. I love that, you know, I think that was so appropriate that we actually got like an extra 30 minutes with Robin. That was really cool.
Now, I know that you and I could have just had a conversation, but it's more fun when we get more people involved.
It's all good. That's the fun part about the Blue Talks Amplify Your Message is it's free flow. It's not scripted. It's not mechanical. I love that we get to just talk and really learn. And there's no limit to what we get to ask.
No, not really.
Yeah.
Like, people were talking to me behind the scenes and they're like, oh my God, do I have to write a bio? Or, you know, what kind of questions are you going to ask? I'm like, think about it. The name of the event is Amplify Your Message. So I want to know about your message. I want to know about you. I want it to be casual. And the only thing that I want from everybody coming here is to just be you.
Yes.
Well, and then talk to us.
Next you is going to be Meagan.
Meagan.
And I don't know if it's Fettes or Fettes. So I'm going to add Meagan to the stream. And I want to make sure I get your name right. But Meagan is really phenomenal. And I'm going to let you tell us all about yourself, Meagan, if that works.
Awesome. Well, thank you. It's great to be here, Scott and Laura. And my last name, you know, it's funny. I joke all the time because I made fun of my husband for years. We grew up together. And then, of course, I ended up taking it on. So goes to show you can't make fun of something unless you're willing to own it. So, but it's actually Fettes. So you had it right. Yeah, so I am Meagan Fettes, and I'm the founder of Untamed Academy. And really what Untamed Academy is it's the blend of the internal work. I like to call it like the quantum manifestation tools with the aligned business strategies. And so it's a blend between the two because we can't really create the true success or attain our like true potential in business without both. And I love, like, I kind of caught the end of your last interview and you talked about like the science or the energetics, and they are a perfect blend. Everything is the same. It's just how we speak about it is different.
Yeah. And I think if you try to do the mechanics without the intuitive, you're never going to get there. You really need them all together, don't you?
Absolutely. Because I mean, we're in an era where we're becoming more intuitive, whether we're aware of it or not. And so within business, if we're not in alignment with who we are, with our message, with what it is that we teach, then our audience, our community can feel that. And so it's really important to bring that structure in so that we can amplify that energy within ourselves and not try to be somebody else or try to fit into a certain category, because that's the best part about human beings is we're all unique. We bring something special and unique to every aspect of our message. And so by having the two together and allowing ourselves to be fully authentically ourselves, that's where we have that opportunity to amplify our message, to share our strengths, our genius, and welcome it into the world.
So this is one of my favorite questions because, as I mentioned earlier, like I work with people's stories. So I want to know what is the story behind why you do this work?
Yeah. So my journey as an entrepreneur has really evolved over the last almost 2 decades. And I started off my journey as a yoga instructor, actually. And when I first jumped into being an entrepreneur, I had no knowledge at all of marketing or sales. Like, I didn't really care at all about any of that stuff, to be honest. I just wanted to teach. And what ended up happening is I filled up my classes. I had a really busy schedule, but then I was burning myself out because I was teaching so much, but didn't have the business sense behind me. So I started to look and learn about marketing and business and all of these things. And what I found was there was kind of a gap in the business industry, where at that time it was, here are these marketing structures, here are these sales scripts, but it was really not about, okay, where does that land for me? It was like, here, you need to fit here, and if you don't, then you're not going to make it. And a lot of the strategies felt really out of alignment for me. And so it took me many years of searching before I could find somebody who was really about, okay, let's focus on the internal work first. Let's really uncover who you are, not how you fit, not how you like can shadow the image of somebody else, but like, let's really allow you to shine. And then we're going to put that action into the marketing structures, the sales, all of that. So it's actually about building relationship first with ourselves so that we can build those positive relationships with others.
You are speaking my language, Meagan.
I love
am
that.
loving all of this. I'm like, oh, she so gets me.
Oh, I love that. And I love the synergy of it, right?
Mm-hmm. That's because like it feels so good because I feel the love in my heart that you're speaking all of this. I've felt for so long all of this resistance with business because I think it was 2014, 2016. I saw Brendan Burchard speaking with Chalene Johnson. And in my mind, he was the first major heart-centered person who was super successful that I came across. And I was like, wait. We can do both? We can be super heart-centered and super successful and do business the way that we want to do business. And that really, for me, that was the beginning. So I'm loving all of this. Thank you. Oh,
I love that. And it's so true because so many people have that belief system, right? Like if I'm going to be heart-centered, then I'm going to struggle, or I can't like advertise myself, or money's bad or wrong, when none of that is true. But because it's been conditioned or experienced in some ways, that's where we need to like break out of those conditions and recognize that the more heart-centered we are, and I've experienced this in my own business. Like I always say, I like to be very authentic. I've focused on more of the ego-driven, like greed, I guess, wanting more of the money. What can I get versus what can I give, and more of that heart-centered. And the energetic flow is much more powerful when we focus on what we can give, when we focus on being that heart-centered individual, when we focus on true connection. The results are much greater and much more sustainable than that when we're focused on the external results.
And how do you coach through the challenge in that? There's an inherent challenge in it. So, I mean, I ran a 15,000 square foot gym for 18 years. I've been a trainer for 24 years. So yeah, so we have some alignment there, but how do you balance? Because a lot of times I ran the gym heart-centered, and that meant people took advantage of me, right? They will just take until you're a hollow shell, and then they'll yell at you for being broke, or like that's not healthy either. So how, and that I struggled with that, and I came to terms to in it in some degrees where, because you need to balance both. Like I want to be heart-centered. I did what I did and I still do. Looks different now, but I do it because I love it. And I need to get paid because that's fair. And balancing those two things. So let's talk about that.
Oh, I love this, Scott, because this is like my jam. Because I'm gonna use the term the ego a lot in this, because I mean it's a term that we like generally understand, right? So when we think about like ego or being more driven by greed, we think about, okay, well, we're focused on the money and all of these things. However, the ego can also show up on the other side. And it's tricky that way, because we think, oh, well, we're being so heart-centered, we're giving, but we need to find the balance between the two, exactly like you said, where it's not all about the money, but we do have to have those healthy boundaries. And when we're fully in that heart-centered alignment, that true like state of self, not the lower self, I like to call it the upper self. In fact, I often speak about how we need to sacrifice ourself, not our higher self, but our lower self. And that's when we can see the two sides, right? So being on this side just focused on the money isn't going to benefit us, but not having those boundaries isn't going to support us either. So it's the balance between the two, and that looks different for everybody. And that's the biggest thing to acknowledge, is it's not always going to be the same across the board. Like my level of boundaries is going to be different than somebody else's. It has to feel good, but there has to be that knowing of like, what do I deserve? What am I worthy of? And really owning that, so that there is that true heart-centered space. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of it comes back down into like checking in. What are you afraid of? Like, what are those fears of holding those boundaries? So oftentimes it's like, oh, well, I might lose clients. And you might, which is actually kind of perfect, because those aren't the clients that you want, right? You want to be attracting your soulmate clients. And so be bold enough to stand in your boundaries, to speak your truth and be authentic, so that it actually repels those ones that aren't meant to be in your business. Because just because we can serve them doesn't mean we're meant to.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then once we kind of own that piece and recognize it's okay if people don't like us or agree with us, there's nothing wrong with that, because when we can step into that state of true abundance, where it's like, okay, it doesn't matter if these people don't like me or don't resonate with me. The ones that are meant to work with me and the ones that I can serve at the highest level, they're going to be attracted to me. And it creates that space for that level of energy, so that we can actually serve at that higher level.
I'm going to agree with everything that she just said, everything Meagan just said. And then I'm going to add on top of that, when you first asked your question, we think of heart-centeredness as I'm going to give. But in order to give, there has to be receiver. And if we're only being heart-centered towards somebody else, are we actually being heart-centered toward ourselves? Yeah, see? And then that's where all of that discussion of boundaries and stuff comes in. It has to be both directions.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I often so I go back to a lot of like the yogic philosophy in my teachings. Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest things in the yogic philosophy is that every single experience that we have is a direct reflection of what we're experiencing internally. So it's kind of that like universal law of divine oneness, right? That we're all one, we're all connected. There is no true separation at all. And when we can begin to look at it that way, then we can begin to look at, okay, if we're having people that are kind of draining us or not like listening to our boundaries, how are we showing up for ourselves? Because it's just reflecting what it is that we need to do for ourselves, so that we can show up and have that solid energy to give. But you're right, Laura, we have to be willing to receive, and that receiving usually comes from our own work first, so that we are creating that energy of receiving the external as well as we begin to give.
And that's such a hard one. Okay, Meagan, let's just start there. Why is receiving such a hard thing for a lot of heart-centered business owners and entrepreneurs to do? How do we move past that?
Yeah. Well, and a lot of it, like, again, it kind of all comes back down to either childhood stuff, like believing we're worthy enough to receive, or like, I know for some of my own experiences, it was, oh, I would be a bad person. Like, I'm bad or wrong if I receive. And so it's really about, oftentimes when we go through experiences like that, it's because we've experienced some kind of trauma, or we've experienced that kind of conditioning through other relationships in our life. And then we make that decision that, oh, I'm never going to be that way. And instead of actually looking at how it's showing up, we just make that decision of, oh, I'm never going to take. And instead, it's like, it's not taking. Receiving is not taking. Like, if we focus on giving so substantially, that's a natural process of reciprocation. And we cannot continue to give at that high level if we're not willing to receive at the high level. So I like to always, like, within my clients, I always like to bring it back to, well, what level of energy or value or abundance are you wanting to give your clients? And a lot of them, like, I mean, all heart-centered individuals, they want to give, and like, they want to have a huge impact and influence on this world. And so I bring that back to them. Okay, so if you want to create that grade of impact and service and level of value for those that you serve, you have to be willing to receive it first.
That's been huge.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And that acknowledgement of that, like, we cannot give if we're not willing to receive at the same level.
And there's a big piece in there, isn't there? Like, so, you know, for myself, I coach an online program, and I've had people, because it's one price when you first do it, and then it's way, way less. Like, it's a quarter of the price if you want to repeat it. And I've had people that for 4 or 5 or 6 months, they repeat the program to stay in the energy and keep learning, but they pay me double the asking price. And for the first time, I was like, "Whoa, no, you don't have to do that." But after a while, I was like, "Man, I must be doing a really good job. Thank you." And I think that's it. You have to go, they want to pay you more. So you are obviously doing a good job. So smile and say thank you, because it's happy money.
Exactly.
It's happy
and that's
money.
just it. Like, when we can focus on, oh my gosh, I get to give, and this is like my process. So welcome to my brain, you guys. But like, every single day, that's exactly what I focus on, is the fact of gratitude. Like, I get to give at this huge level of service. And like, I don't necessarily think about the receiving, but I always say, and I am open to receive as a reward to what it is that I get to give. So it's more like, oftentimes we think about gratitude on what we do get to receive, but I think it's also, we need to think about the gratitude of our gifts. Like, what is presented in front of us, we were given as a gift. We were given our skills, we were given our knowledge, we were given our journey as a true gift of what we're meant to do and what our purpose is. And when we can own that on such a high level, then it naturally begins to shift that scale. Exactly like you said, Scott, it becomes happy energy versus like pressure. Sometimes I think that we often think about, like, if I serve at that high level, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to serve and it's going to feel hard. But it's like, no, you were given this gift. You were given this opportunity and this like awareness of the value that you can contribute for a reason. Don't worry about what it's going to look like. Just do it.
I've had to really work on the whole receiving during traumatic events, since we were talking about trauma earlier. It helps me when I think about, if we go a little more spiritual for a moment, some of those worst things that happened in my life were done by people. Let's just involve people for a moment. Those people, you know, are spiritual beings, and their spiritual being decided that, hey, in this lifetime or whatever, I have chosen to be the bad guy for you because I love you so much. I need you to grow in this way. And so I think about all these people, you know, doing things that I don't like in the moment, but I learn and I grow and I become amazing from it. If I think of them as the people that loved me the most, on an energetic level to come in and to be in that space for me. It's like, wow. And then it helps to really dissipate some of that trauma and the hurt and the pain that comes with it, and to be in that place of love so I can continue.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that whole idea, right? That life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us.
Yes.
And it's really easy to get kind of caught up in the, oh, well, this happened to me, or this person did this to me. But recognize, like, we're multidimensional beings. Like, what we're experiencing in this dimension, in this time, is all that we're experiencing. But there's so many other layers to it that when we can allow ourselves to sit in it and feel it, like, we have to feel to heal, and then begin to shift our perspective of, what am I gaining from this? Like, what did I learn? And then from there, start like applying it and bringing in that forgiveness and gratitude.
That's huge. That is, wow. Yeah, that's great. Laura, I love that you said that, and Meagan to tie into it as well. That's massive. Like, to see those, because it's hard sometimes when, especially when I'm going to call it a lesson, is particularly crappy, to, use another one of Corey's terms, to flip the script and see it from a place of gratitude. That's a skill, because that's not easy to do, right? But that's profound. But to look at it as going, wow, thank you for the gift of teaching me that lesson.
Yep.
Huge. So Meagan, what are the key things you do? Now, we talked about earlier, we almost made fun of it, the elevator speech, right? But I mean, if you were to, somebody says, well, Meagan, what do you do? How do you help me? Here I am, I'm a person and I have problems. How do you help me? What is it that you offer? How does that go?
Yeah. So my area of focus, especially right now in my business, is speaking. So helping people to discover their message. So what is your story that brought you to where you are? And how do you tell it in a way that connects to your audience, that allows them to actually lean in and realize that we're not separate, that they're not alone, and that you're somebody that understands them and can support them. I call that like the connection space, or the curiosity space in a speech. And then what is like your branded content? Because a lot of times in talking, we kind of go broad, right? Which is great. We have so much things that we can talk about, but I teach people to go deep. Like, what is your message? And like, how do you take it to a point where it's so unique and deep that people are driven to like massive insight? And then how do you then take that into a point of like helping them see that potential and that opportunity for transformation through working with you?
Yep.
And
You
so
totally get me.
Nice. I love it. Because like, that's really what the journey of business is all about. Like, whether we are speaking or whether we're marketing, the whole process is, how do you connect to your audience? How do you deliver insight? And then how do you create that desire for them to say yes to themselves? It's not about saying yes to your business. It's about them saying yes to the journey of transformation for them.
Okay, you're inspiring me to change my name, because this is what I usually do. This is what I'm all about.
Yes.
We need to collaborate on something. That's all I'm saying.
I agree. I totally agree. This is amazing.
It's probably one of the worst things, Laura, and I know we talked about this last time we did an Amplify Your Message for Corey. The worst thing about doing this for me is it's a week of, okay, I need to hire Meagan, and I really need to talk to Robin. And by the end of the week, I am broke like 12 layers deep because I want to work with everybody.
So good.
And that's the most beautiful part about what you guys are doing, because I think sometimes when we're in our journey of entrepreneurship, we're so like laser focused on what it is that we're creating. And what I love right now about the energy that we're seeing is it's all about collaboration. Like, we're finally starting to like branch out and be like, you know what? We need to do this together. Because the more that we collaborate, the greater impact we have. And like, through this, you guys, I'm sure, get to meet so many incredible souls and like powerful like leaders in the industry.
And the best part is when we get to talk to a bunch of them, like all in this small span of time, or so it feels. kind of. I'm an extrovert, so I'm like people, people, people. We get to see these different perceptions and reflections of the same kind of topics and patterns, that now instead of having this narrow focused view, we get to see this multifaceted beauty of a wholeness of what is. It's like, oh, so good. I love it.
And it's almost like, to my mind, it's kind of like having a smorgasbord, but instead of a big long line smorgasbord where you can kind of see everything,
like a lazy Susan.
It's a smorgasbord on a winding hallway. You don't know what's around the corner. I didn't even know that was here. Like, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
That's cool. And I love the whole like idea of patterns. Like, I'm sure through these like connections, you're noticing the patterns. I often say I'm a pattern person. Like, every single thing that I've learned and applied in my life has been based out of patterns. And I love to say, like, in everything, whether it's life or business, are we willing to like basically experiment and really put it into action and apply it to see, okay, this works or this doesn't. And there's nothing wrong. Like, I think sometimes in business, we get so serious, like, oh, I have to make this work, instead of being like, you know what, I'm going to try this. And I'm just going to see what happens and have that state of curiosity. And then that's where like the true magic begins to happen, because we learn how this piece might work, but what if I put this in with it? And what happens there? Okay, well, that didn't work. That's okay. Let me try this. And the more we can be in that science experiment and find those patterns that work for us, that's how we begin to grow our business. That's how we begin to scale. It's not, oh, you have to do this, because everybody, although we're the same, when we're connected, we're also all different. We're all unique. And that journey is meant to be a true expression of our energy in business.
Yes, I could definitely attest to that. The first 7 years in my business, I feel like I just kind of spun my wheels. And then almost exactly 1 year ago, I said that I would try on like a shirt the title of Courageous Connection. And I'm like, I'm just going to be curious. I'm going to play with it. I'm going to see where it goes. And I'm not lying when I say life has exploded ever since.
Yes.
And that's what happens when we allow ourselves to play and be curious and to just be messy.
Totally. Like, we were never put on this planet to be serious. Like, if you think about, like, look at kids. Like, I always say my best teachers in life are my two kids, because they see life as pure as it is, where it is playful, it is messy, it's just fun. And I love it, because when I'm in those states, because I mean, we're human, we all go through our journey where I'm like, okay, I get serious and I look at things a little bit too broad or too like focused in, and they bring that awareness of like, you know what, like, you just got to play. And every single time it's like, okay, I'm just going to do this and I'm just going to see what happens. And every time, just like you, Laura, it's like, it just expands. Because that's the creative energy. That's the evolutionary energy, is play.
I pretend like my inner 6-year-old is just, after I've done the healing with her, I learned that all she wanted to be resourced was strawberries, chocolate, to be allowed to climb a tree, and to have a friend. So I climbed the tree in my head. We ate chocolate-covered strawberries. And then she was like, no, I already have a friend. And I was like, wait, what? She had taken her highest self out of herself and pretended that she was sitting on the tree branch with her. And I was like, wait, you can do that? She's like, yeah, what do you think imaginary friends are? And I just, mind blown, I know, in the moment. And so now I imagine doing that. But I also imagine, because she's so awesome, I imagine her with me all the time. And we play so that I can stay in that curiosity. So I can stay in that playfulness. It's like the way that she sees the world now that she's resourced and healed instead of the pain behind all the stories, right? She sees the world in ways that I never would have thought of. So now I see money as an inner 6-year-old. I see every person I talk to. How would my inner 6-year-old talk to their inner 6-year-old? How would that play work? So now I want to know, do you have any inner children that you resource or work with or pretend are around? And if so, like, how do they see the world?
So I'm going to show you guys a picture. I hope that's okay. It's on my bookshelf here. So this is my inner child. Sorry, like nudity. Oops, which way am I going? This way. But this is like, I keep this on my desk to remember being untamed. Like that's the whole purpose of my name is like that version of me, that time in my life, there was no worries about what other people thought. There was no worries about judgment. There was no worries about if there was enough or if anything. And that's my reminder always of when we just allow ourselves to be seen fully. And when we allow ourselves to own every piece of our journey, our story, who we are, and we become untamed, like unconditioned, then that's where we begin to really experience that play and that freedom. And so that's my version, actually. And like I say, I keep her on my desk, my bookshelf.
I had a feeling there was something there. I was like, just ask the question. Why am I asking the question? It doesn't connect. Just ask the question. That's why. Okay.
Totally.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting too, I think, to layer on as well for those of us who didn't have that childhood, that you can still enjoy that through other children. I know for me, I got to live a really great childhood through my son's childhood, watching him be free and play and have all those things. That's not the child I had, and that's fine. There's nobody's, that's not that, but it is interesting to really connect with that childlike stuff. And maybe your childhood wasn't spectacular, and that's not the resource you have to draw from, but it still exists. You go to a playground and watch children, or have friends with children, or just, I think there's a real piece there to have that, because when you were talking about being willing to change and stuff, and I thought about that with my business when I ran the gym and stuff, and I didn't even realize it at the time, but my son, he would be completely immersed in Ninjago. Everything was Lego Ninjago, those little ninja characters, and he knew every single detail about everything that had ever been said on every episode of every movie, everything. Whole world. All he wanted was ninja. All he was Halloween. There was no exceptions. Birthday, everything was that. And then it changed, and then it was Transformers. And then he never even talked about Ninjago, and everything was Transformers. And he knew every Optimus Prime and everything, and it was all Transformers. And then it was Star Wars. And then he knew every single detail about every single planet and every single character of Star Wars. And that lasted about a year. And then you kind of think, okay, kid, you got to pick one. And then I thought, no, you don't. But how many people do that in business or their work? Like they go, well, it fits in this little narrow box, and this is all I get to do. That's it. That's not true. You can change that.
Well, and that's the beauty, right? Like, because even in your son's experience, there's that common thread, right? Like, he was so invested in each thing, and there was a common energy. And so we want to hold that common energy, but not hold ourselves into this one and only space, because we are evolving. And one of the best things I ever heard in my life, and this is something that I've held on to, is the universe can only support that which is evolving. Like, it doesn't know how to support anything that's not. Like, if we look at it, it's like nature at its finest: evolve or die. And so when we're resisting that evolution, when we think that we need to stay the same, that's when things get hard, because the universe is like, hey, like, you don't have to stay this way. I need you to lean into and grow those passions. I need you to lean in and look at how you can expand yourself and how that shows up in your business. And the more that we do that, and the more like we are curious about it, the more we have that expansive energy flowing through our business, through our life.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that, Scott. Like, that's very insightful. And kids are that way. Like, if we were to like look at kids and watch what they do, there's no resistance behind them. They just do them. and it's so glorious and it's so beautiful. And so when we can utilize that and say, okay, how can I take that energy and those lessons and implement that into my own experience?
Definitely.
Yeah. And he doesn't ever feel remorse over the fact that we just spent $1,000 in the last year buying Ninjago Lego, and now we have to spend another $1,000 buying Transformer stuff, and then the next year we got to spend another $1,000 buying. He doesn't see any of that. He says, I just like this. So I have to be careful not to layer my own junk on it, right? It's like, we just bought you all this stuff. You're not even playing with it anymore. He doesn't care. That's not his deal. So we have to be careful not to get stuck in that too, right?
Totally. One of my favorite, I got to share this with you guys because I think you guys will resonate with this. My oldest, there was one time, he was about 4 years old. It was just after my grandmother had passed away. And before she passed away, she had gotten them all Christmas presents, all the great grandkids. And it was glow in the dark pillowcases that had stars all over them.
Ooh.
And so my oldest decided that every night he was going to make a wish that his great grandma was going to help make come true. And so he did. And every single day it would be something really, really simple and really easy until one day he decides he's going to wish for seeing a happy and nice dinosaur. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how am I going to, like, he's too early to feel like this can't come into reality. I don't want him to learn those things, my own conditioning, my own fears from my own experiences. So the next day I kind of like put it out and I'm like, you know what? I can't do anything about it. It's going to be what he experiences. Going to let it happen. And we're driving through town and it's just after Christmas. So there's still a lot of the Christmas decorations up. And he looks over and he sees a blow up dinosaur wearing a Santa hat.
Yes.
And he's like, "Hey, Mom, I knew I was going to see a new dinosaur and a hat, like a nice dinosaur. And I know he's nice because he's wearing a Santa hat." And I was like, oh my gosh. But you know, it's funny because like as adults, right? Like we've been so conditioned to be afraid to ask for what we want because we have maybe experienced it not showing up the way that we want it. Whereas kids, there's not that conditioning. Like they ask for it and they're open to receiving it however it shows up for them. And I think that's like one of those biggest lessons within business, even is like when we're setting out that, like when we're sending out our messaging, like being really clear, really powerful with it, and then being open to receiving it the way it's meant to come versus trying to control it and expecting it to show up a certain way.
I find there's a big difference between trying to manifest something that is very specific. I want this big mansion with this kind of staircase and these kind of finishes. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. To manifest such detail is not the point. We're actually manifesting the feeling of it, right? Versus the tangible thing. So your son was kind of doing the same thing. He wanted to feel happy and to see something new. He didn't say, I want to see a blow up dinosaur with a Santa Claus hat who is smiling. It's like, okay, let's lose some of the details and lean into the more generic but specific energy and emotion of it. Yes. And it helps allow all of this path come in. It's like, yes, I've been listening to some Esther Hicks lately.
Esther Hicks is amazing.
That is new to me. I'm excited. I'm learning lots. And then every time I find somebody new, it's like there's always this tree branch of information.
So Meagan, we've got about kind of 7 minutes till our next guest. So if I was to ask you, who's your ideal person that you want to work with? Who are you looking to work with? What does that person look like?
So I am looking to work with like the soulpreneurs. So the individuals that are all about creating that big impact, that are really about like the holistic modalities. So I love working with like healers, coaches, fitness instructors, nutritionists, like those really heart-centered, focused service individuals. Yeah, totally.
It's like we're here. Right here.
Yeah. And those are like the people that are willing to do the internal work. Because that's one of the biggest things. Like I understand that we have been conditioned to think, oh, well, if I work harder, then I can get this. And I'm all about flipping that mentality it's not about like the hard work is the healing. The hard work is the internal alignment. That's where the hard work is. It's not working longer hours or harder hours. That stuff comes in easily once we've taken care of all of this.
Yeah.
And then what I like to call it, like once you've taken care of this, then we begin to unleash what I call like your attraction energetics. So that everything in your messaging, everything in your speaking, everything in your marketing is speaking through energy. Your words are infused with your energy, and it begins to attract people to you versus feeling like you have to take more actions externally.
Yes.
So,
oh, you'll love this. Okay, up here. Oh, I don't know if you can read it. Wait. There, it says speak from your sparkle. That's one of the things that I just, like, I need people to understand that when they're telling their story, and it's almost always trauma-based. It's why they do the work that they do. It's like, how can we get them to come from that place of love and to speak from sparkle? And you can tell, like, their eyes sparkle when they're in that right frame of mind, that right energy to share in a way that connects and creates change at the same time. It's like, ooh, the sparkle. How do we reach out to you?
the best way is through social. Like the social platform I use, I keep it really simple, is Facebook.
Yes.
That is the platform I utilize because I've got 2 kids. I don't like to spread myself thin, and I like to give all of my energy I can into that one space. So my personal profile is the best. I seem to see it a lot faster. So Meagan Fettes on Facebook, or you can check out Untamed Academy. So it's untamed-academy.com.
Academy.
Cool.
Trying to write really quickly. My notes look crappy. And then
always
if I type it here, like the whole thing does this as I type.
Megan and I are always taking notes. You can always see the top of our head for a second. We're taking notes, and yeah,
you're like, here's my hair or lack thereof.
or lack thereof.
Or lack thereof. Here's my shine. I want to know what you're working on right now, Megan. So is there a special project or something cool that you're working on?
Well, there's 2 right now. So one is that speaking aspect. And so my mission within the speaking training is to really like tune into who are you? And instead of like, yes, the structure is important, but really bringing in that energy and owning your message so substantially so that when you hit the stage or the screen or whatever it is that you're speaking on, you're radiating it. And it's like really like finding that space. So for me, sometimes when I'm speaking, I love to like throw in jokes. That's just who I am. Sometimes I joke that I'm a little bit of a raunchy speaker because when something's like funny and I can make a joke on it, I usually do. And sometimes they're a little bit of a dirty joke versus always clean. That's just my style. And so I really like, it's all about that, like helping people to find their style. Again, it's not about fitting into, oh, I need to do this structure and I need to do it perfect and all these things. It's like, be messy, be human, but be you. And so that's the big one. And then also the Elevate Your Purpose Mastermind right now is the other big project I'm working on. And so the Elevate Your Purpose Mastermind is a 9-month incubator where we're bringing in like the foundational aspects of building your business. So everything that you need for the back end, everything you need in terms of creating your content, mindset, as well as like people who do funnels, who support. Like it's basically like the way I like to look at it is it's like the all-in-one stop. What do you need in order to be truly successful on your terms in your business? That's what this 9-month incubator supports with.
It's interesting. A lot of the things that you've talked about and that you've done, I think, really come back to Michael Gerber's book, The E Myth, which is the entrepreneurial myth, right? Which is, do you know that book?
No, I need to write this one down.
So good. Michael Gerber, The E Myth. So you started out in his terms as a technician. You were a yoga instructor. You're a very good yoga instructor, very passionate yoga instructor. And then you had the entrepreneurial seizure. You're like, I'm going to open my own yoga studio so I can control everything and make it so good, way better than I've ever seen before, right? Because you're a great technician. So now you open your own yoga studio. And now all of a sudden you are a manager, because now you're managing rent, light, heats, marketing, staff, payroll, taxes, insurance, and you're teaching classes, and you're trying to get new clients. Oh, and I also need to be the entrepreneur with the big ideas at the same time, and you explode. Because you can't do all 3 jobs, right? And so I think, if I'm right, what you're now helping to teach is, how do you take a passionate technician, teach them the tools to be a manager so they can be an amazing entrepreneur? Am I on the money on that?
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. And I love that, because that's exactly like the journey that I look at. Like, you can be great at what you do, but let's take that and now bring it into the next level.
Mm-hmm.
So you hit right on the money.
I'm going to make you an offer. I have a stage that I think you would fit wonderfully on. It's a very structured stage. So I would love it if you reached out to me behind the scenes and we can chat about it. I
would love that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I want to connect with you too, kind of on the speak side of the thing. So, anyway, in my spare time, but it's awesome. I can't wait to work with you further, Meagan. This has been fantastic. I already sent you a connection link on LinkedIn, but I'll do one on Facebook. It's been fantastic. I'm going to let our next guest in here right away. But is there any final messages, Meagan? Final thing to say to the world?
Biggest thing I would say is be willing to, like I said this before, but I want to say it again, is be willing to sacrifice yourself. Okay. Your business is not you, first of all, but it is your higher you. And when we can own that and sacrifice those fears of judgment, sacrifice the need to be comfortable, sacrifice all of those things, and just allow ourselves to fully own it and be seen, that's when the real impact and influence is created. Because we cannot create impact and influence if we're still hiding. So you got to be willing to jump out so that you can truly serve at the level you want to.
That is awesome.
Yeah, we totally need to work together. Everything you're saying is just what I'm doing. So
oh, I love it. This has been amazing. Like, Scott, Laura, honestly, I've had spirit bumps, I like to call them, this whole talk.
Yes.
So thank you.
So good. Thank you, Meagan.
What a gift. Okay. Well, we'll let you go. We're going to bring Kimmy on. It's been awesome. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day.
Thanks. You guys too.
You guys. Bye.
Oh, so awesome. I love doing this. Well, we have our next guest, and she's fantastic. She's actually been in early, and I could tell she's been listening in. So I'm going to welcome Kimmy onto the stream. Hello, Kimmy.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good. Hello, Laura.
Yeah.
We can barely hear you, Kimmy. Is your cord all the way plugged in?
It is.
Oh, okay.
Is that better?
No.
Oh, okay, hang on. Oh, that's no good.
Yeah, your audio's a little bit choppy.
We've been having lots of rain here, so I'm not sure.
Your visual's good, so it seems your connection is good. Is your of course. Is your microphone integral to your system, or is it a separate microphone?
It's integrated.
Okay. It could be time for a new microphone.
It could be.
Right? You have my permission.
What other tips can you give me quick here to get going?
I would say be close to the microphone, speak up. It's probably what we can work with right now. It's a little bit choppy. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry about that. I have a great message I want to share.
Yeah. Well, and we want to hear it, of course, too.
Good.
Trying to think technically, I guess the other thing we could do is you could jump onto StreamYard with your phone, your mobile phone, turn them, like, mute yourself on this one and have the audio come from the other one. There might be a delay, though. That might not be optimal.
I'm actually on my phone.
Oh, are you? Okay.
I am. Yeah.
Okay.
I had to go on my phone.
Oh, is your phone like set on something? Because sometimes the microphone on the bottom, if it's set on something, it won't pick up.
Oh.
No, it's hanging, actually. It should be free.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Laura, I thought you had such a good point.
I can hear her enough now when she's close. I'm trying to do it too.
So get
How about I back up?
Okay. You back up, I'll come forward.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start then.
Well, we'll do our best. Yeah. So tell us a bit about yourself, Kimmy. What is it you do?
What I do is I support boys and men on a journey that I got kind of as an epiphany after my second divorce. It's called Boys Don't Cry.
Mm.
And it's hashtag him too. After my second divorce, I was about 46 years old, and I looked back on my life and I thought, holy crap, what the heck? Like, who gets this stuff in their life? And then, like, that's it? That you just get crap? From a very young age, my father was an alcoholic and abusive to us in every way. And I thought that was the norm, of course. And I couldn't figure out why God wouldn't help these little kids in this house or this mom. And so I began to question my religion, which happened to be Ukrainian Catholic. So you don't really do that much. And these things kept happening. Then there were other men in my life that were supposed to be mentors and protectors, and they were anything but those things. So I had no perception of what love was, self-care, self-worth, any of that stuff. And life was a little bit rough until I got my aha moment. And my aha moment was, you can't make everyone happy, and the ones you love, you can't make happy. You have to worry about yourself. And my dad's greatest quote to me was, he would be happy if I got out of grade 12 not pregnant. And so I didn't really have a high self-esteem, you might say. And then when I went to college, he proceeded to tell me that he had called the college and he doesn't think I actually attend, and that I talked them into possibly lying that I did attend. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty powerful. And I never knew anything. And the physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental, emotional, spiritual, I thought that was my destiny. Like, okay, I'll take this on so that no other kid has to take it. But what I didn't realize is that that was generational abuse from my dad's dad. And then my dad passed it on to me and my brothers. And then that energetic connection in life, you attract the knowing and the energy. And I didn't understand that. I didn't know what intuition was. I could feel the red flags in my tummy, but I didn't know that was the sign and that was my compass and my guidance. So as I got older, these things kept happening. And I kept questioning myself, if I keep getting these red flags and my tummy keeps going crazy and people are telling me that things are this way, but I know that I'm not agreeing with that internally, what is going on? And then I learned what intuition was, and I was like, holy deuces, like I was right all along. And I didn't know that. And I realized after my second divorce that the purpose of my life experiences were to step forward from my side, not as a victim, but as a survivor of generational abuse and the Boys Don't Cry, that I can help and assist and make change to that so that we don't do that subconsciously saying that to little boys. I mean, now I know through research and going to school and understanding what this was my whole life. At 46, I went back to school and I went to take coaching programs and I did brain science. And now I know that there is actual emotional development that gets suppressed when we tell boys this. For example, you could be walking down the street with a child and they trip and they're little, say 2-ish, they trip and they skin their knee on the cement. So one, there's a feeling they've probably never felt before, is that sting on the cement. And then there's this red stuff flowing out of their body. They've never seen that before either. So they're in shock. And right at that moment, we have emotional development going on. It's in its process. But when you yank a kid by the arm and go, shut up, don't cry, let's go, they're in a shock. They don't know what this feeling is, what they've seen. Why is this hurting? Why am I crying? And why, if I'm crying, why is this person being unkind to me? Why are they not being what I need them to be as a child, as an adult? And through my studies, the suppression that comes in these little things add up. And I describe it to the men I work with that when you're born, when you're in this lifestyle of not knowing, and you don't need abuse to have emotional unawareness. It's perception on how you are raised, what your environment is, what your beliefs are, your value systems of those around you. If they don't have perception for emotion and how that works, they can't teach you how to love. They can't teach you how to be compassionate. And when something comes up, all you have references is that it's bad because I got in trouble because I cried, or I didn't feel right and I didn't understand something. So if I asked a question, I was stupid. So there must be something wrong with me, not what's going on in the world, but with me. So it's like getting a shovel of dirt thrown on your soul every time something like that happens. Well, by the time you're a teenager, there's quite a few loads on there. There's actually truckloads of dirt on there, because the golden rule, do unto others as you would have done unto you, doesn't apply in life. You're the one that's kind. But if the people with you or in that moment don't have perception of kindness, what do you think kindness and love is? Can you give kindness and love?
Not if you don't know what it is yourself.
Exactly. So then we have these teenage boys, and I'm not saying that, again, it's not abuse. It could just not be acknowledgement. You could have a kid coming home with straight A's and every honor he could get. But if he doesn't have acknowledgement or a gratitude from his parents for working hard, he is going to try and strive and strive and strive, and he's never going to get that adoration that he deserves, that helps him with gratitude, that can help him with praise with his own children, with his work relationships, with intimacy. So when we suppress this at a very young age, we have very troubled youth, we have very troubled young adults, young men, we have addictions, we have pain, and we have PTSD. It's not a pretty sight. And all because of a little phrase that probably everyone has heard. Boys don't cry. What a crock. What a crock.
Yeah.
One little teardrop, smaller than the size of your pinky fingernail, has so much creation and development in it. And yet we, with one phrase, have stunted that and turned that into turmoil for someone's young life. And in the classes that I do with men in workshops, by the end of it, it's so overwhelming to hear them talk about the 7 levels of energy, where your first level is your most catabolic, and it's your rage, and it, and then you go up one more level and it's like, well, I'm kind of happy for you, but why the heck can't I have that? I want that. And we don't know how to deal with that. And then every level all the way up to 7 is more anabolic and What is anabolic? Nobody knows what anabolic is. Well, nobody knows what compassion is either. Well, okay.
I'm a personal trainer for 24 years. I know, but yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all right. You're the exceptions to the rule. Okay, you two. So when you have that, and you have a man that is possibly thought of as the paycheck, the guy that takes the garbage out or takes the kids out to practice, there's not much value in his life, is there, when he thinks that that's just his role? And perhaps his partner was raised without compassion and affection. And when you put those two together, what kind of childhood are your kids going to have? They're going to be stumbling. And it's not a right and a wrong to how we were raised. It has nothing to do with that. Our parents did the very best they could. My dad's an alcoholic. He beat us every night. And I know now what his past was. I understand how his emotional development was halted at a very, very young age. And I know that's why this stuff happened to me. And I know that's what happened to my brothers. And my brothers had different instances and things that happened. And even if we're in the same room together, our emotions are not all the same for the same event that happened. And I think it's time that, I was going to say swear word, but I think that it's time that we change the movement. It has to change. Compassion is okay. It's okay to cry. I know you've probably heard this story of my son. He was about 13, and I'm a medium, and I went to my friend's place. It was the anniversary death of her husband and the kid's dad, and I had just found my gifts, and they asked me to come do a reading on the anniversary of his death. So I went out there, and it was a great experience. Came home, and my son asked me, well, how did you make out? And I said, oh, Chad, it was just awesome. It was so amazing. That's my perception. My son comes home from school the next day and he goes, Mom, you lied. And I said, pardon me? He said, you lied. Sydney said she cried and cried and cried. And I was like, oh boy, okay. And I got down and I looked him in the eye and I said, son, did someone tell you not to cry? And he said, well, yeah. And I said, you know what? I'm sorry, because that's really unkind. And he looked really baffled. And I'm like, okay, quick, Mom, think. And I said, well, Chad, if you didn't pee or poop, your body would expand, right? And you'd get a tummy ache, your back would hurt. It would be really uncomfortable. And then if all of that exploded, we would have to take you into the hospital because you would have all this poison inside of you. And he's looking at me and I said, if you don't cry, that poison stays inside. And then you get angry and things get thrown around the house, for example, and people do things to other people they probably wouldn't do because of that rage. And I said to him, I said, you know that Mom comes into your room when you're sleeping and I cry? And he looked at me and I said, they are such happy tears. And I have so much love, that's how they come out. And he was like, huh. I said, yes, if we don't allow that to come out, that's a way of coming out. If we release that, we're maybe not going to punch a hole in the wall. If we're allowed to sit and have comfort in our lives and to release those emotions safely, where we don't go and have an addiction or beat our spouse, drink, gamble, promiscuous sex and sex addictions, those are the things that happened. What about the kid that never got acknowledgement from his parents? He's striving, he is burning himself out because there is nothing he can do to prove himself. There is no self-worth line that he will reach. Yeah, isn't it? And I didn't know what self-worth was. I was pretty sheltered with my emotional development, right? And when I ask questions in church, holy moly, did my Baba and my mom ever let me know that that was the wrong thing? And when I went to get married the first time, and a priest told me what I was to do, and I'm like, excuse me, but you don't have sex. You you don't live with women, and you're not married, and you're gonna tell me that I'm going to have a fight with this man that I'm going to marry about a cap on the toothpaste? And I was never allowed to question. And when we are allowed to question, and just like you were talking with the last guest, ask the question. It doesn't mean you have to go to conclusion to find the answer, but when we ask the question, in our brain, the energetic stream or energy will start to realize that, hey, there must be another perception here. There must be another way of doing things, or we wouldn't be asking a question. So what else is out there that we haven't thought about? So we compound all these things in, and maybe let's throw in, how about a marriage with mixed race, mixed religion? So let's throw that all in there with no emotional awareness, and we're going to put all those things in there. And then the husband is like, well, my perception of marriage is this in his mind, because God forbid that we communicate and talk to each other when we're going through these things, because don't we just read? Don't you just know this is what my mom did? This is what my dad did. Don't you just know that this is how it's going to be? Hell no, you don't. Okay. We need that conversation. And when we have that conversation, don't just hear the words of a person. And this isn't anything with your work life, your friendships, anything. Don't hear what they're saying. Stop and listen. There's a difference. You can hear this going, and that's all you're going to hear. But when you use these things that are here and you allow the perception of what is being said, and even if you don't agree with it, hear the words. What are they saying? What are they trying to articulate? And it doesn't matter if you don't agree. Listen to them. Repeat back, oh, this is what I heard. Is this what you meant? Well, by golly. I guess we're not baptizing the children then, hey? And then you wonder why all these things happen, And so we get back to these gentlemen that I'm helping. When they step back and we talk about the 7 levels of energy, and they say to me, well, I don't really know what that means. And we go through the 7 levels of energy. We talk about values and core beliefs. And that they have the option to make their own choice with that and not follow great grandpa, dad. And it's like, what you mean I can think for myself? Yeah, isn't that a light bulb moment? You see these grown men sitting around a boardroom table at a workshop, and these light bulbs are going off nonstop. It is the most rewarding thing for me when a grown man says, I didn't know I could voice my opinion. I didn't know I had the option to deserve or have self-worth. It's overwhelming to me. It is so overwhelming to me. And when they come back and they start talking about, okay, I was in level 2 energy and I didn't like it. I knew it was coming. I didn't like it. And I stepped back and I took a breath and I got to 4 and I got that lightness coming, and I felt safe there because it felt good. There was a change. The energy was happening. The change was happening. We are not broken. No one is broken. No one needs fixing. We need more perception and awareness to what is out there. When we were raised, the people that raised us, the church we belonged to, the media at that time, they gave us what they knew, what they know, or what was happening in the world, okay? And that's what we went with. We had nothing else to learn by and live by. Now we're an adult. Does that feel right in my guts to be my core belief? Is that a value from someone else that I can appreciate and have in my life, or do I need to tweak it a little bit? And yes, you can tweak it. You can like a tradition and maybe not like something that went with it. Well, how can I tweak that to still have that in my life, but make it to the point where I give it back with abundance, and the people around me can see the energy of the love I have, the appreciation for something. But when you, for how many years men say, oh, it doesn't matter, whatever you want to do, I don't care. Oh my God, I hate that. Right? When you go to a restaurant, where do you want to go? I don't know, it doesn't matter. I don't want to go. Speak. Because if you speak now and you say your piece, we can work on that. After we've gotten home and we're in bed, it's like, I hate that freaking restaurant. We always go there. I can't stand, like, just no, like, really? Say it. It's yours. It's valuable. You deserve to be spoken, or you deserve to speak in a way that communication is heard, and the articulation has no question. There's no wave. Okay, we're not going to that restaurant. I want to go to A&W. I want to go to Tim Hortons. It's pretty blunt. And when we suppress even in those little moments, and then we get home and we have that, I'm not going to that freaking restaurant ever again. I can't stand that place. What? Why would you do that? Why would you not just, hey, how about today we go here, tomorrow we go there, or the next time, or whatever?
Well, it's at some point they felt they didn't have the permission to speak because of the same thing, right? Your emotions are not valid. Your opinion's not valid. You're not welcome to speak. I wanted to say one thing, Kimmy, I'm very happy about. You sound amazing now. So what I fixed, I didn't, in StreamYard, I'm going to put credit to StreamYard. They have a little button here on the back end that I clicked, and it said adjust Kimmy's microphone. And I took it off of automatic, and then I tweaked all the levels, and you sound wonderful. So I'm super happy. So you can relax if that was still there for you.
It was a little bit.
It's stressful. And I was like, I'm just kidding. You're on a roll and you sound great. I'm like, I wanted to tell you that to take you off the hook so you can relax. You sound amazing. And so many good pieces. And I mean, certainly will land differently from Laura because I am a boy, and that whole boys don't cry. My father was growing up in the 30s in a farm, and that whole man's man, and you just don't.
Oh yeah.
Right. So you're speaking a lot of my language, and I'm going to tell you, I did cry, and therefore I never fit in, and I was outcast and whatever, but I cried, and I still do. And my son cries, and we allow that because it's normal, because it's energy in motion, emotion, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
And if everybody in the world just realized what those little words said and what they did and the damage they caused, no one intentionally would have ever used them.
No, but isn't it interesting though? And I'm curious your thoughts. There's a pendulum on it too, because there's the men never have emotions. You're not allowed to cry. And then you're a big sucky mess because all you do is cry. Like, we don't want that either. Like, you need to be, I cry once I need to, and then I really need help. And, it's down here somewhere. Am I right there? Like, we don't want to there was this big push for men to be more in touch with their feelings more. And then we ended up with, but I can't really say, but
how can they be in touch with their feelings when they're never allowed to even know what they have no data? Oh, okay. So if I skin my knee, that is called pain. That sting is pain. And that red stuff is blood. It's in me. And that's okay. So it's going to sting for a little bit. We're going to put a Band-Aid on it, and it's going to stop. And in a couple days, you won't even know it's there. Instead of yanking the kid by the arm and saying, oh, shut up, stop crying, let's go. Okay, so pain happens. I guess everyday pain kind of happens. It can happen. Wow. Would have that been a lot easier?
Never was that kind of parent. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Score one for the good guys. Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's awesome.
Some of the other work I do too is non-talk therapy. Not everyone can do talk therapy and prescriptions. Laura. So I can't believe this. As a Ukrainian Catholic born and raised, I have healing gifts that I never knew I had. And now that I look back, I know exactly where I had them and the days I had them in instance. It's just phenomenal. But I could work with you, Scott, wherever you are in the world, and I could visually see your body on a massage table, and I can virtually lay my hands down close to your body and know where I need to work. I can energetically release those judgments, those perceptions, those blockages. I can take that edge off of those things. And, it only takes probably about 3 or 4 sessions energetically. I work with people all over around the world. And it doesn't matter if it's physical, sexual, mental, emotional, spiritual. There's things that can shift. I can support you in either of that. Talk therapy, non-talk therapy. And for men, it's fabulous because they're so scared to make that first step. There's so much stigma. And COVID helped us with mental health. We got the awareness, but we don't have the help for it now. Like, people are still like, do I make that call? Oh my gosh, what if somebody knows? What if somebody in that office knows who I am and they've heard my name? Like, end this now, people, and let's heal, okay? Heal, not that you're broken, but heal to have peace. Heal that you can have abundance back in your life and gratitude. And the little things that you're grateful for is just a snowball effect for the bigger things to come. If you can't be grateful that you got that parking spot really close and it's pouring rain outside, and you can't be grateful for that little thing, you're sure in the hell not going to get the big things too, because you're not in receivership. And until we eliminate and take the edge off the judgments we have and the perceptions that screwed us up in life, now is the time for us all to reevaluate what we were taught, what we were told was right, what doesn't sit in our tummy right. Those things, when we question those things, that means there's some work to do there. And by work, I don't mean fix. That's not it. It means that your body and your being are coming to communion, and they know they can now talk to you and say, excuse me, this isn't working for us anymore. Can we call that blonde that's really yappy and get her to help us?
Now.
Yeah. Hey, a spade's a spade when I'm working with people, okay? Just so you know. If you need it sugar-coated, I am not your girl.
But don't be hard on yourself.
No.
I love that you brought up the whole nonverbal healing stuff.
Yeah.
Or because there's so much that goes on in the mind that also goes on in the body. And so when we work with the body, I don't know how yours necessarily works. I have a couple things that I do. One, I don't know what it is, but I call it cellular manipulation. It's like long distance Reiki-ish, question mark. I don't know, working on it. And then there's something that I do physically with the vagus nerve. But it's the same kind of thing. When we work with the physical body, we are putting those messages in that says, okay, we can take a rest right now, stress. Tell the stress rest. And when we come from that place, we're more open to any of the deeper healing work. And if that involves a conversation about the story, great. If it doesn't, that's great too. But this is why I actually love working with men.
Oh,
They don't have that space, that safe space to share any of this.
No.
Working with men is like watching this beautiful flower unfold that only comes out once every 10 yeyears. You're like, oh, like it brings
and it blooms for like 10 seconds. And if you don't catch it blooming in that 10 seconds, you're screwed for the next 10 years. Because, what was that? I don't know what that felt like. I don't know what that was. Can't have that again. Because they have no reference. There's nothing to go in your filing system and go, okay, that's okay. That's a good thing. We like that. We want more of that. How do you do that? I use access bars from Access Consciousness, and there's 32 bars on your head. And they range from sexuality, and the sexuality part is even for not necessarily being sexually abused. However, it's for any trauma you might have had, or the not knowing of how to be intimate with someone, and never being able to speak up. The sex lives that I have supported and turned around with these non-talk therapies is wow. Like, it's amazing because energetically you change every 10 seconds. Energy is flowing through you. So every 10 seconds you are a new person. You are a new being because we have new data coming in. We have new emotions coming in. We have new feelings. We have senses, taste, everything, right? So every 10 seconds, we're creating a new being. You are a new baby. And it's okay that an hour ago you had a thought about, this doesn't kind of feel right. And then an hour later, you would have gotten more information or a download from, your own awareness expanding. And it's like, oh, can I change that? I have to change that. That doesn't feel right now. I want this instead. Well, heck, go for it. That's okay. We never give ourselves permission. We grow every day. We get new information. Do you think when COVID hit, we all knew what was going on? No, we did not. But every day we got data. And the data I received might have been different from yours, might have been different from Scott's. So we internalize that. It's like, okay, I want this bit out of that, or no, you know what, that doesn't sit right with me. And that's okay. Your core belief can be different than your brothers or your sisters or your parents. And that's okay. Because your core belief and your values are as unique as your fingerprint. We are not made in a factory. We do not feel the same thing. We get punched out our individual fingerprint because there is no one like us. We can agree on things. We will not feel things the same way. My brothers, when my mom was dying, I couldn't be there. I was 9 hours away. One brother said at the moment they screamed out DNR, don't resuscitate. And all the staff took their hands off my mom. One brother swears he's seen a heart monitor with a heartbeat. The other brother swears, nope, it was a flat line. How on earth can you go in and say one was wrong and one was right? No, you can't. That's their own unique experience. So what I did is I went in and I said to their higher selves, okay, how can we ease this for them? I'm not there. Let's give their higher selves the ease that they need for the next few days of shock to carry on and do what they need to do. And there was almost like a peace when my brother phoned me. He goes, okay, she's gone. I said, well, give her a kiss goodbye and tell her I love her. And at the same time, when she went in the ambulance 12 hours before that, she came to me and I said, Mom, are you done? Have you had enough here? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, wait 1 minute, Missy. You will not go before your brothers and my brothers get to the hospital because I ain't dealing with that. I don't think I'm equipped to help them that much. And so she did. And that night after she got into her ICU room, she never did gain consciousness. I told my brother, I said, when she's all settled, call me or text me, and then I'm going to phone and you put me on speakerphone. And they're like, I don't know, can you do that? And go, well, they're not going to kick her out, guy. Like, I think we're good to go. And so he phoned and I said, Mom, this is Kimberly. I know the boys are with you. And if we need to forgive you for something, please know that we're doing that right now. Right now, even if we consciously don't know what it is, and subconsciously it's been bugging you, we are so sorry. And know that we forgive you for whatever you think you've done to us. And he said, you know what? You take us up with God, because I ain't arguing with him. I'm sure he's not going to argue with you. So if you want to go, know that you have done everything for us that you possibly can. And the three of us and all our kids are going to be just fine. And we're going to carry on with your traditions and your wisecracks and your all the little finicky things about her. And we laughed and we laughed. We said goodbye. We said we love you. And in a few hours, she was at her peace and she went. And we gifted that because the perception of love changed for us from when we were children to when we said goodbye to mom. And what a most peaceful healing moment for the four of us, really, to let go of mom. Now, if I wouldn't have had my aha moment and accepted my gift as a healer to be able to do this type of work, I can't imagine where I would be with my mom's death or helping my brother get through that. And my mom stayed in my soul as, like, I'm a medium, so she stayed with me for probably 2 weeks. And the day after her funeral was a 3-day experience. And on the last day, I'm like, Mom, you gotta go. Like, you're draining me. I can't do this anymore. And like, even when we were making our funeral arrangements, there was a storm and I couldn't get home the 9 hours. So my brothers were on the phone and they're like, ask Mom what she wants. And so I'm like, okay, just give me a minute. And, you know, like, we picked flowers that she liked, and they would say, does Mom want this? And I'm like, hang on. But my cousin on the other end ran the funeral home, and he's like, what in the hell is going on? Like, who is she talking to? And it was quite different for him, to say, but having the perception to receive my gifts and use them as tools to support other people, my life has been blessed. Yes, I have up and downs, and the thing is I know that there is a different perception. If I ask a question and not go to conclusion for the answer, it's going to show up. That answer is going to show up. It may not show up right away. It may smack me straight in the face when I'm driving or walking around or something, but it's darn going to show up. And if we allow and give permission to anyone and everyone without judgment, what a beautiful planet we could recreate. We're already here. Now, if we gave everyone permission to just be and ask and be in the question, is this for me? Is this right for me? And allow them to disagree with something that is in your past. How can I change this now to empower me to have more abundance in all ways of my life than I ever thought possible? What an amazing thing to be able to support people with.
That's so beautiful. Kimmy, we just have a few minutes left, so we want to make sure that we know what you're working on and how we can find you.
Right now, my current project is with Womenation out of Edmonton, and it's a men's project, actually. So there's going to be a magazine relaunched. It had been quiet for a while, and they decided they're going to relaunch that. And then there will be some workshops coming up and a day event for men. I'm also working on her too, hashtag her too, and you matter. Because with the work I've been doing with men, they're like, oh, our wives need to hear this, our spouses need to hear this, our kids need to hear this. So hashtag you matter is for everyone. Hashtag her too is obviously for the her twos out there. And this is the him too is my passion. And Corey is our founder of bLU Talks and Amplify and everything. He's like a guru to me. He said, you get on your soapbox, little girl, and you preach it, because there is no women out there really supporting men. And that's my passion and my purpose. When I had my aha moment, and when it was, why did I go through all this? And I got my answer because I just asked the question and I let it come to me. It was like, oh, now I know I get to help all these people turn things around and allow them their possibilities of even greater abundance than they thought possible. We can't conceive the abundance that's out there for us. There's no book for that. And our imagination can't even go that wild. Our desires, our requirements in life, it's phenomenal. But we've trapped it into something so small. It's time to break that ceiling and break it wide open.
So where do we find you, Kimmy?
You can find me on social media, Kimmy Energy. It's together, all one word. KimmyEnergy.com. Or you can give me a call at area code 780-385-5086. And I would like to offer the first 2 texters or messengers on social media a 1-hour coaching session.
Ooh.
I suppose we don't care.
Coaching or a distance healing. They can have their pick.
Nice. That's awesome. So much good stuff, Kimmy. And, you know, I keep circling back, you know, my mind circled a few times while you were talking about some of the great stuff, but back when you were talking to talking to a young child and saying, if you didn't pee or poop, and then eventually you would explode. And, you know, relating that to Boys Don't Cry and with emotions and stuff. And yeah, the parallel to, I'm just going to say, a family member who didn't poop for 39 years and then exploded, and I got it all over me. That's just like, seriously?
Yeah.
We couldn't
And
have
that's
talked
the
about this?
generational abuse. That's and it, you know, even when they explode that poop, it doesn't have to be violence or like physical trauma.
Right. No. It was emotional junk, leftover emotional junk that was never said, never spoke about, never whatever ways that family member was feeling legitimately 39 years ago and never said a word about it, but was stewing on it the whole time. And
can you imagine what that would feel like inside? Ugh.
Gross. And it's interesting you were talking about your mom passing away. This was when my mom was passing away that finally I pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed until it released. And this person finally admitted to a bunch of thoughts that they've been having. A lot of them were, I'm going to say, not that an emotion can be in error, but the cause for the emotion was in error. And they didn't need to feel that way. If they would have just communicated it, then it could have been, actually, that's not what that was. What about this perspective or whatever? But instead it was 39 years of self.
Exactly.
Putrid.
And how many families have those secrets? Oh my God. Oh my God.
It taints everything.
Oh, and when that explosion happens, it's more devastating for the ones that have those people up on that pedestal. Like their whole world is rocked, absolutely rocked. And you know, when I talk with men, I said, okay, guys, here's your welder's mask. And that's your perception. Some of us only have that. How sad is that? That there's blue sky and there's oceans and, you know, there's birds chirping, your feet in the green grass. Can you just feel that right now? And then go back to that. Yuck. Yuck.
Yeah.
And I live in an oil and gas farming community. Nothing against welders, but what a perception.
Yeah.
And so let's take those masks off, guys. It's okay, step forward.
Well, and it's critical too, because your whole life is if this, then that. And if you're thinking, if this is true, then this is how I feel about that. But you're if this is wrong. Like it's inaccurate. You're all mad and angry and contained and full of poop about something that's not even accurate. And every decision you've made since then, based on that, is you didn't need to.
Right. And
powerful stuff.
Just think so your belly's all full of stuff, and if you just take a needle and do a little poke and get some air in there, what happens? It kind of starts to dissolve. Yes. Yeah. So that's the question being asked. What more of this is there that I'm not getting? That if I got, holy frickin' moly, you know?
Yeah.
It's such a simple concept, but it's to give someone permission to feel and to express what they feel. And you know what? They can't even say the feeling because they don't know what it is, because it was, you know, suppressed.
Boys don't cry.
They don't understand.
Yeah.
And the intimacy, you know, I never knew intimacy until really I met my boyfriend about 4 years ago. Holy moly, when you're on page with someone and you are allowed to be free, and that the teachings of a woman is just for a man's use, and, you know, like, shut your mouth and just lay there. Well, like, and that's the stuff that we
Wait, that's
release.
not
I
still
know
happening,
it's a
is
very
it?
taboo. It's so
That still exists?
taboo, but
Yes.
that's the truth.
I thought we moved past that like 50 years
We
ago.
haven't.
We haven't? Oh my gosh.
We have not. Sex is such a taboo. And I really find that I want to move in that direction, because there are so many intimacy trapped people, and that have been shamed, or that their bodies aren't good enough, or that the belief, like I was, like, no, you know, you just turn your cheek and let them do it again to you, physically or sexually, as you grew up. And that's what love is to you. And then when that is released and you can feel, and you know what intimacy is, it's like the abundance that comes with that. You have to be abundant in all areas of your life to receive. You can't say, I will take abundance financially, but not emotionally, not sexually, not spiritually, not mentally. If you don't do the whole gamut, you don't get it all. Like, yeah, frick, life is amazing, people. Let's just step forward and be vulnerable. Ask for support. It's support. It's not help. You're not broken. You just don't know. And that's okay. You just don't know. I didn't know.
It's like taking a course.
Idea.
Yeah. It's like taking a course. It's not punishment. You're taking a course. Yeah.
And I don't use the word mistake. It's a lesson. Because we didn't know. In medicine, how many times do they experiment before they get it right? Do they shut things down? When babies start to walk, oh, I've fallen twice. This shit ain't for me. No, right?
In the closet.
Oh, how about I get up and grab something and I have a little balance, try something different.
Yeah.
We tell those kids, you stay on that floor and don't you dare walk. No, we don't. Well, look at it that way. Yeah. I had one kid that had to go on the wall, and then I had another kid that needed two things in his hands so that he could balance himself, and they were fine. The perception is it has to be one way. It doesn't. No. 5 and 4 equal 9, but so do 6 and 3, and 8 plus 1. Well, holy, yeah. As my old neighbor said, for crying in the soup, there's a different noodle in here.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. I want to say thank you so much, Kimmy, for being here and for sharing some of the things that people don't want to talk about. And at the same time, you've also mentioned many of the things that we've talked about with other people on. And I'm hoping that our listeners and our viewers will see some of those patterns that work for them.
Yep.
All of this.
I think I'm going to dive into this sex talk because it's taboo, and we're at the stuff I like to blow out of the water.
And then I will tell you, Kimmy, that my friends and connections know that I will talk about anything. I really will. And I have been a part of those sexual conversations where you create that safe space to just let people explore. And whether I have experience or not does not matter. No. It's just, it has to have a conversation. So I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. How many people can't say the word penis or vagina because it's taboo? Like, oh my goodness. You know, I didn't do it to my kids. My daughter, I told her it was a flower. And because that's what I was taught. Yeah. And I had 2 kids. So we went to the doctor who had 3 sons. And she said, my flower hurts. And he looked at her like, what in the... I'm like, oh, no. Yeah.
Well, I had such fun today.
So good. So good. Yeah. And I will say that at least on Facebook, I can only see one medium at a time. But Katrina Bro has claimed she would love to claim your invitation for that session. So that's at least.
Oh,
I can't see.
my work cut out for me then, Katrina.
Yeah, I can't see LinkedIn or YouTube, but we can follow up on that. So that's awesome. Kimmy, we're going to let you go today. It has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for the gift that you are giving the world. Big time.
Thank you for the platform to express it.
Have the most
Bye.
amazing day. Keep on saving that world.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Whew, well, that was awesome.
I know. You know what? I'm so much happier now that this isn't 4 hours because I'm like, I've needed to pee for the last hour.
Yes. Yeah, feeling that way too.
Yes.
That was awesome too. And I'm so I'm gonna say proud of myself for finding the settings in StreamYard to fix the microphone because she had so much good stuff to share. I'm so glad that I found that little button and was able to I just turned it off automatic microphone and I just changed the settings and all of a sudden like I had to put my headphones on because I was like, oh boy. And then it fixed. Yes. So I'm super happy. Tech moments, right? Tech moments.
I know.
Technology is good when it works. Awesome.
Well, I can't wait for people to join us tomorrow. I'm gonna look it up. Who is on our roster for tomorrow?
We are back tomorrow. I know. I was going to look it up too. Back tomorrow with more amazing guests for Blue Talks Amplify Your Message. We have so much fun doing this, Laura. I love doing this with you as well because you are just the most fun person to work with. And we were talking earlier about you give me confidence because I'm like, oh, even if I fumbled, Laura's going to be amazing, so I don't have to worry about it. So yeah,
I'm just, as we spoke about earlier, I have my inner 6-year-old with me all the time, and we are both super curious and we'll talk about anything. So
of course. Yeah. So tomorrow we have Janine Brisbois, which is going to be great. And then Paul De Niro. Then we've got Chris DT Gordon. I'm looking forward to chatting with Chris.
Yes.
And Kathy Dirksen. So we got 4 great interviews tomorrow, which are all going to be a lot of fun.
I know 2 of them.
Yeah.
And I met one casually and I don't know the other one at all. So it should be an interesting.
Oh, it always is. Yeah, it always is. It's so much fun. I love who the universe hands us. So thanks for everybody for paying attention online. And for those that are going to watch it later, I hope you enjoy. And that's another fear about, I hope it's recording properly, but I'm sure it is. So we'll find out.
And that's why I love you. You're like, I'm totally serious. And then I bring in the humor. And I just, I love it.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy working with you. It's so much fun. I hope everybody else out there enjoys it as well. We've had a few people commenting online, so that's awesome.
Much love, everyone, and we will see you tomorrow.
Absolutely. Okay, see you tomorrow.
Bye.